Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the exploration of everything. I had so much fun making this first podcast, so I sincerely hope everyone enjoys listening to it or watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. Joining me to help celebrate this very first episode are two very dear friends of mine and two truly amazing human beings, Sieh Mchawala and Colin Thrupp. These two guys are both accomplished documentary makers and between them have travelled to just about every corner of the planet. They've lived remarkable lives and they've captured so many incredible stories along the way. It's a privilege to have these two gentlemen in as my very first guests, so please enjoy.
This
is the exploration
of
everything.
Gentlemen, welcome to the very first ever podcast of Steve Getty's podcast with Steve Geddes, which is not the official title.
What is the official title?
I don't know yet. I don't know. Maybe the exploration of everything. That's what I'm going with at the moment. But welcome. I am very, 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 very thrilled to have you two legends on here with me. Colin Thrupp, Sieh Mchawala.
Thank you.
How do you pronounce that? Is it Mchawala or is it Mchawala?
It's Mchawala.
Oh, that's sexy.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Mchawala.
Oh.
Makes Steve sound like an arsehole, doesn't it? Thanks, Steve.
Oh, we can stretch out get it.
Yeah.
Stephen get it.
Mchawala.
Yeah.
It is the nicest name. Whenever you ring and I see your name come up, and I've got like 50 M's in front of your name too, so it's Mchawala. It's good.
It's slightly erotic, Steve, but yeah.
So, anyway, tonight, bit of a celebration. First ever episode. Who knows what we're going to talk about. But I wanted to talk to you two gentlemen because we have gone on a lot of adventures together, all three of us, doing different things, sometimes together, sometimes apart, in our wonderful world of being TV producers and directors and cameramen and everything like that. And I know we've done a lot of different stuff over the years. Even I was saying to you guys before this that it was really cool when I text you both to see if you wanted to come and be on the first one. And you were off catching sharks, I think, Cole, somewhere. And you were in a big truck going across the desert in the middle of nowhere.
Going up to Fitzroy Crossing, I reckon.
Yeah. Somewhere really remote in the middle of nowhere in Australia. But I think that's a little bit lost on us sometimes on how awesome our jobs are as documentary makers. The kind of crazy shit we get to do and see. That you get a text from a friend randomly during the week. Oh, here's me holding a shark's head while it has research on it. Oh, I'm just going down to Antarctica for a week. I'll see you when you get back. It's bizarre. So it's good industry.
And you do forget, I think, when you talk to people, you know, that you do. I mean, okay, it's not that.
Just move that
cool.
Little bad boy closer to your mouth.
It's cool. It's interesting, but I think a lot of people do forget, and I don't actually even know if people can actually relate to it anyway. You know, some things, like unless you're in a circle like we are here, you know, you can kind of talk about that shark head or this. A lot of I'm unsure whether everyone else who doesn't do that has their 9-to-5 job, whether they can, you know, relate to it, or they just go, oh yeah, whatever.
It's
yeah,
such
sure.
a bizarre
you've done
concept.
that and that and that. And you're just one of those guys that has a list of stuff that you've been to and done. But I don't know if it's really that interesting to anyone else. I don't know. I mean,
it's got to be. It's not like we're going on holidays. Like we work, 50 weeks a year and then go on 2 weeks holiday. It's like, Monday 9 o'clock, instead of going to the office to do the accounts, I'm flying to the other side of the world to film something crazy for a while, and I'll be back next week, and then I'll go to your birthday party, and that's it. Which is a bizarre concept for a lot of people to wrap their heads around, but it's a very cool lifestyle to live.
People used to ask me, like, what did you do? What have you been up to? What are you doing next week? Or what did you do last week? And I'd be like, because my memory's pretty bad at the best of time. Oh, that's right. I went to the Great Barrier Reef and I was shooting a story for blah blah blah. And they're like, how do you forget that?
Yeah. It gets a bit like that.
Well, because like the day after that, I was somewhere else doing something else.
I was in the Seychelles.
Yeah.
Something else. Yeah.
You get that all the time. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, now you talk about tigers. Yeah, I was off filming one of those last week. It was pretty awesome.
Actually, I'm gonna take you. This is taking me back a little bit, but I was remembering those early days when you're thinking about making films. You've studied a little bit, and you're trying to work out. And I'll go to a very particular moment. It was me and my sister. And we were talking about, the point. I think I just finished like doing I think it was certificate 4 in filmmaking or something, right? And you sort of walk out and you go, okay, I go out there and we get some people together and we spend some money and you make up a story and then you film it. Like, I mean, really, what worth is this to the world, or what is it? What are you contributing to the world? And this conversation, we were having some wine, a bit like what we're doing right now, and the conversation got bigger and bigger. And after we nutted it out, I think it came down to, like, okay, maybe filmmaking at that time, my idea of filmmaking was kind of, it was very young then. It was like, oh yeah, you're aiming for Hollywood or something and glitz, right? It was like, well, you don't really, maybe you won't contribute too much to humanity at that stage, but maybe instead of being a doctor or something, maybe you can go film someone else doing something that you find amazing. And I think that's what we all do. We go out and film people just doing really amazing stuff. So we get to experience that and test it out without actually having to do the hard work, which is really, it's actually quite a good thing to do. Like, you must be all a little bit nosy, I think. You're that kid that sort of is looking into the mechanic's shed going, oh yeah, what are they doing there? And you want an excuse to be able to walk in and hold his spanner for him and hand it over and ask him some questions.
But you don't want to get your hands dirty.
Yeah. So we're kind of there. You're at that position, and you can always say, oh, you know what, I've got to get back to the camera if your hands have to get dirty, you can always escape.
It's definitely an all access pass to anything you want to have a look at. This week we could be filming some doctors doing some brain surgery, and then next week I could be filming, a kid kick a soccer ball or something mundane like that. But you just have an all access pass to everything, which is very, very, very cool.
No, it's certainly, I mean, I tend to talk about it in the terms of you get to lead multiple lives in a lifetime, because we get to dip in and out of people's lives and get to know them sometimes quite intimately, and understand what they're going through or what they're trying to achieve, and you're a partner in crime for a while, and then you move on to the next one. And I think one of the interesting things, particularly with the more harder hitting and more emotional documentaries, is it must be hard for the other person, like the person that you film with, for a period of time where you eventually, I mean, our jobs is often to become their best friend, to gain their trust and to help them feel comfortable in front of camera and to reveal things to us that potentially they might not really want to talk about, but that's partly our job to try and tell the whole story that way. And so I think one of the big things that's really important for me is that kind of, it's almost the breakup period. Like, because they've been so used to having you around and having somebody that's so extremely interested in their lives. And I think the way that you have to handle that breakup period when, okay, we had a really nice time together and I'm so grateful that you're able to trust me with everything that you've shared, but now I'm off here filming this and I can't be that confidant. It's a really tricky thing to do. And I don't know that I have the answer to it yet in terms of the best way to do it, but it's always in the back of my head.
I definitely feel sad. Like if it's coming, if we've been with someone for a couple of weeks or a couple of months or even, longer in a couple of years working on something, and then you get to that last week and you start feeling like you are going, not necessarily a breakup, last day of school or something where a part of your life is over, and it might be a part that you really enjoyed. I know we've just finished working on a show together, and towards the end of that show, that I started feeling like, oh, that's it. I might never get this insight into what I'm doing again. And I've been, like you said, been so close to this person. And I've been through it so many times now where you're just like, yeah, we'll stay in touch all the time. We'll go for drinks. We'll do this. Like, nah, I ain't going to call you. But you're still really close to them and you still feel like you always have that bond because you've always shared something together. But it's a sad kind of time when you start breaking up.
I think when that breakup moment, like maybe I'm speaking for myself.
Put this little bad boy,
but it is pretty genuine. I think. I mean, for me, I think what I've learned over time is yes, you get these really intense, like really, really intense relationships, right? And then you have your breakup period. But I feel like they're genuine. I mean, I think early days you used to think, oh, how am I going to maintain this? I don't want to, like I'm putting so much effort, and you try because you've made one film and then you've made two, and you can, you can ring them every week, and then suddenly you're like, okay, I can't actually maintain these relationships. However, I think I've learned a way of being able to have an intense relationship and then also be realistic about how we catch up. Not saying that you wouldn't, but you kind of, those friends that you have that you might see every 1 year, 2 years, and it's, you just, when you meet after 2 years, it just continues, like it never stopped.
Oh, it's kind of like this room, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you feel like, oh yeah. And then, you talk and realize you haven't seen their kids for 4 years.
Yeah, that was one of my favourite comments before this, where you just say, hey, Colin, how many kids you got now? Oh, how are they? Yeah. I haven't met them yet. Yeah, they're 4 years. Yeah. It's been 4 years since you guys.
I know. Yeah. But I don't feel like maybe there's social media as well. I don't know what it is, but you feel like you've been part of it somehow. But, anyway, there's certain friendships you can make that you come back to and you continue, and it's cool.
I think that has to do with going through something big together. And whenever we go and film, and we might be lucky enough to go on an adventure or do something together, but we've undertaken something monumental in our lives, like we have in the last couple of months on the last shoot that we just did. We've undertaken something monumental, so you always form a bond with that, whether you're just going on a big hike or doing, it's delicious. Or you're doing something, it doesn't have to be film, it can be anything in your life where you undertake something monumental together, you always form a bigger and a stronger bond from it. And I think that's what we do on a constant basis, is just go through something monumental, especially for them. Sometimes it's a bit mundane to us because we do it week in, week out, but for them it's definitely monumental. So you always share that bond.
But we don't do it week in, week out, right? Everything's different. So that thing you shared with them is going to be different to the next thing you share with someone else.
Yeah.
But you can't physically retain all of that monumental stuff as they can, because they do once and you're doing it every week.
Yeah, but we've gone through something monumental together. So it doesn't matter if we because it's not just them doing their normal job. It's them doing their normal job with 10 people watching them, or 2 people watching them, or one person watching them, with me just asking this relentless questions and me wanting to know more and more and more and more, and them also having to think about what they're actually doing. I think that's a big thing that they don't do. A lot of you go to a job and they kind of go on autopilot for a while, but then when we're there and we have to ask for an explanation, or why do you do that, or even just try and nut out so we can work out logistically what we have to do, that makes them stop and think about their job and their role, which they probably haven't done, especially if they've been in it for 20 years and they're on autopilot. They haven't stopped and thought, hey, that's pretty amazing what I'm doing. I'm saving someone's life, and I do that on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think it depends on the show you're talking about too, right? Because a lot of, we do
There's
so
some
many
cheesy ones out there.
Yeah, we do so many different shows, and some of them are a lot more emotionally invested, where we will spend, like I've done shows where I've spent weeks with 1 or 2 people to try and get to know them, to break them down, to build trust. And these people aren't doing amazing jobs. They're leading very mundane, boring, sometimes really difficult lives. And us being there, it makes them feel special for that period of time, like particularly if they've gone through something really hard. And so when we leave, it's kind of the best example I can give, and I'll try and tell the story really quickly, but one of the worst breakups that I've ever had was when I won't talk about the exact show, but I was filming a lady who was trying to get her life back on track. She was an ex-heroin addict, and she was applying for a job. And so I filmed with her throughout all of her process of doing that, including getting a birth certificate together, getting a license back, calling around, trying to get a job as a forklift driver in Sydney. And we got to know each other really well, to the point where I'd spend time with her in her apartment that was very, for lack of a better word, it was very run down. She was clearly still using, although she was trying to hide that. She'd just broken up with a partner. But but it also just come out as being gay. Like her whole world was just fucked. But I filmed with her and we were focusing on the job, and she's going to go off and she's going to get a job and she's going to get her life back on track. She's going to get the girl back. She showed me the ring that she'd bought the girl. She wanted to marry this girl. And she got the job and it was all amazing and everyone was really excited, and I filmed all that way through. And then the next thing, 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from her and she's high as a kite, threatening to kill herself.
Jesus.
And I'm like, and this is the line, right? Like, because I've been her best friend and helped her feel special and like been with her throughout all of that process. And she was just so upset. And you and I have been through this in our personal lives as well, with a very good friend of ours back when we were late teenagers. And no, like you're so torn because, you know, you want to find the right answers for her and talk to her in that moment, the same way that, you know, that we probably both did with our friend many years ago. But then at the same time, you're also a professional working as a TV producer and director. So what I had to do is I had to call the police. I had to call the police and say, this woman is suicidal. I don't think she's in a great state of mind. You need to go over there and help her.
Well, that's the best thing you could have done anyway, regardless.
Totally. But then the worst thing that happened was she phoned me angry because the police were there and the police had found all the heroin she was still using. So I was like,
Yeah,
it was so fucking hard.
Yeah.
And it's still hard to think about. And I often wonder about her and how she's doing. And we talk about us affecting people. Like, that happened 8 years ago. I feel upset
tough.
thinking about it.
That's tough.
You know,
Have you chased her up since?
I've tried Googling a couple of times. She's not on Facebook. I don't live in Sydney anymore, so I can't just do a drive-by past the house.
Yeah.
It's tragic, man. You know, like.
No, it's a really interesting because I think that's just one of those things you're just constantly battling. You know, I probably fortunately maybe haven't been in somewhere that's gone that dark on me. You know, in an idealistic world, I'd like to think, yes, you will have to. Well, I'd assume that you will have to step over that professional boundary a few times. I mean, you have to do it while you're working. It's probably a responsible thing. Maybe I think maybe like, you know. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. I mean, at what point do you draw a line, and that's always going to be grey area of how much do you get involved post the job, but you've also had a really intense relationship with someone.
We know as filmmakers that the more we get to know somebody, the more we're in their lives, and the more often we can do that and just become part of the furniture. That's when the gold comes out, because they forget you're there.
That's the goal, to get to that point where they're so familiar with you that you're just a normal part of their life. And they're not affected, they're open, they're pretty much in the most honest state they can be in, which is the opposite from when you walk in with the camera crew. They're in the most closed state. So you've got to work your magic as quick as you can to get them in that state where you're, like you said, you're just part of the furniture.
And I think that experience for me is one of the big reasons why I try to be so careful with people. I talk about that breakup period. You know, like I can remember plenty of girls back in the day that ripped the Band-Aid off and buried me.
They're lost, mate.
They're gone. They're out at sea. And it's like,
get even another drinks here.
I have 3 more.
Mention the war.
But yeah, I think it's really important that, and it doesn't matter what kind of job we're doing, you know, because you don't always know exactly what's going on. So I think, for me anyway, that's a big consideration. We're particularly making that kind of show. It's how do we end this in a way that you're going to feel okay and it's all going to be fine moving forward for you.
But going into that show, that's a pretty heavy situation for, especially from 8 years ago. You know, you're a young dude.
Would have been 26.
26 going into a situation like that. That's a heavy situation for a 26-year-old kind of guy to be going into to handle. So how do you even like get yourself ready to go, hey, I'm gonna do that?
I mean, I don't think you can. I mean, none of us can really be ready for what's going to get thrown at us. All we can try and do is be empathetic, try and not be a prick, because there are a lot of pricks in our industry that push and manipulate. Try not to be that, and try to be open and understanding as best you can, you know, and allow people to fail. I think the sooner people can feel comfortable with with failing or making mistakes in front of camera, like the sooner you're going to have a really good relationship with them.
I think that's it. That works well with anything in life. When to disarm someone, when I go into produce a story, and I did this in the last show and a lot of shows we do. On the first day when you're just chatting to them and you're doing your thing and you're just going around, I tell them about all the shit things that I'm shit at and all the shit things that have happened in my life. And there's a long list. I just go, and this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened.
But how do you
deep
explain
dark
that
secrets.
space?
Yeah, well, that's the biggest mistake, you know. But that's such a good way to make people feel like, hey, I can be human because I'm just talking to another human.
Totally.
Sure, I'm a ridiculously good-looking human being, and that's intimidating.
Anyway, see ya.
Hey, but what I'm going to do, I've been spruiking this for ages. See ya.
Yeah, we've got to taste. Oh, that's
This-
right. I've just cracked a beer. As
No,
well.
no. We'll finish your beer. I'm going to let it breathe for a little bit.
Okay.
So this
Now
is
we're getting
the-
a bit
this is
technical. Steve's feet.
Yeah, this is it, mate. The
Yeah.
old wine.
You were naked when you crushed these grapes. Right?
Well, only for this bottle because I
Yeah.
knew you'd be drinking.
That was the
it.
first bottle he ever did.
Yeah.
He christened it.
Christened
It's going
it.
to taste salty
Yeah.
as shit.
Yeah. It's salty. You'll be picking things out of your teeth. But this is it. But yesterday on the plane. So I flew up first thing yesterday morning, right? And on the way out, I'm like, oh shit, I got to take some wine because we've got the event tomorrow night, and I'm giving some people some bottle of wine. It's just a gift and thank you for the last couple of shows. And so I stashed heap in my suitcase. And I've done it before, you wrap it in a couple of shirts and stuff like that, and you don't think anything of it. And then you usually put it into like the fragile, but the chick at the airport didn't put it in fragile, so. My bag.
Her fault.
really?
That chick at the
Yeah, that
airport.
damn chick. I
at the
wrapped it in that
airport.
one thin shirt.
She even said, apparently, that she did put it in fragile.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah,
You should have
right.
seen me when I come in yesterday morning to meet Az here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I wasn't in a good state.
Is that why your shirt's looking like that?
Yeah, that's why the
Yeah.
shirts are gonna.
You know who
So-
I blame? That prick global warming.
Yeah, it's like global warming.
Mm.
So
What?
so I get to the other end. I arrive here in town, and then my bags are first to come out. And I go, oh yeah, sweet. And it was raining on the other end down in Adelaide when I left. So I go, oh, my bag's wet. It must have been out in the rain. No big deal. So I pick it off the conveyor belt, and this puddle of maroon, purple shit just goes all over the conveyor belt, all over. And at the airport, everyone's just hungry to get the bags. There's a wall of people. I'm the first one too, feeling like I'm a frequent flyer. Stand back. I got the first bag. Pull it off, this big puddle of wine there. I feel like an arsehole. I quickly grab my other bags and just slink out of there. There's a big trail of just purple
Red.
wine. And I stink. So I'm walking through the airport at like 8 in the morning. I caught the red-eye flight. And I stink like red wine. There's red wine trail following me.
Starting to explain why you didn't answer any of my texts yesterday morning.
Yeah, I was. And so
You reckon? You were shitty.
I got to town and I was so shitty. And I got all my suit in there for the event tomorrow night. I got all the white shirts.
no.
So
Look, at least it was maroon. It's a good colour. If you're going to have anything bleeding from your suitcase, I'd rather it be maroon.
It makes me think of a goat cheese story, but I probably won't bother going there. It was a long time ago.
Tell us the goat cheese story.
Oh, mate. Someone asked me to bring him back some goat cheese.
From where?
Oh, he's laughing. It was early days. I was a youngster, but it was from London. I'd caught the train over to Paris. All right.
Yeah, so
It's
international goat cheese.
International train ride. Yeah. And I was coming back.
I hope
And it was this
customs aren't
American
watching
guy.
this, mate.
Yeah.
You're fucked.
And he said, bring back pork. But he, so I brought back.
Is that why last week when I was up at Noosa, you said, "Oh, there's that shop. Can you bring me back just all this meat?
Oh, that meat, yeah, the dried meat. Yeah,
just
yeah,
bring me back
exactly.
some dried meat.
Same
Classic
place.
African
Same
move.
place,
Bring,
isn't it?
bring me
Yeah.
some
dried
bring
meat.
me some dried meat.
I actually went there, that place.
Did you?
Yeah, very nice. But anyway, I was coming back, and when you've got the Australian passport, so they put you in the other line. You're there with 50 other people trying to get customs, and my bag at this stage just stunk. It absolutely stunk. I actually ended up putting it, to the side, so I don't have to stand next to it, because I was there for like an hour trying to get, my passport stamped. Yeah.
You're saying to yourself, I won't get done. Sniff a dog, he won't smell it.
Yeah. You
Won't
no,
smell
I was just going, everyone can fucking smell it.
Airports suck for
Yeah.
our industry.
Oh,
So
mate.
if you want to
Yeah,
talk about times where I get shitty,
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
airports.
and I can get
You
shitty.
used to be the worst at it.
Yeah,
Like,
right. Go on, tell me,
you
tell me
were
more,
the
tell me more.
worst. So this guy, right, every time, regardless, like we'd get to an airport and it's never fun. You've always got too many cases. You're always running a bit late. You know it's
Trying to
gonna.
hide batteries.
Oh, you know,
Hand
it's
luggage is always going to be way over. Hand
Yeah.
luggage
Yeah.
is 25 kilos.
yeah, it's always shit. And this guy, we would see the airport and he would just glaze over and turn into the angriest little man you had ever seen and just race in there. And the lady would be like, should be in the most lovely mood. Oh, hello, gentlemen. Where are you going today? Oh, just 4 cases, thanks, love. Just check them in.
Might be embellishing this a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
Just a little bit.
But you were.
I'm not that big an ass. I was only never not nice when people tried to take my camera equipment from me. That's when I would get cranky.
All right, bulldog.
Go on, please tell. Keep going. Keep
No,
going.
mate,
Yeah,
that's about it. He was
Yeah.
he was edgy
yeah.
when he
yeah.
was young. He was really edgy.
But as
Has
you
things
know,
changed?
and as you're about to find out, kids wash away all that shit because suddenly the little things like the airports and your bags and your batteries, they're
Stinky
not as
cheese.
bad as waking up at 2 a.m. to a bed and cot full of vomit because your little girl, your 14-month-old's got gastro. Suddenly the airport, take me there now. Take my batteries so I don't have to clean up that shit. Please.
Yeah. I know. It's even worse when all of you are doing that. Yeah.
What, shitting yourself?
Shitting yourself. Yeah.
Back to our little conversation we had earlier about the separation period for you guys and some of your stories. Do you think
the
it's
breakup?
the breakup period? Is it? And with the birth, with the the boom of reality TV,
Mm.
do you think there's a lot of scarred people out there?
Fucking oath.
It's like the footy star that retires and then all of a sudden they're not in the limelight anymore. What do they do?
Well, I can't remember who it was, but there was a really good article from one of the big wig EPs who's been doing reality TV for 15 years. And one of her quotes was about how when you finish doing a reality TV show, you're not going to be famous enough to be able to quit your job, but you won't be able to go to work for a year. Everyone at the pubs will want to fight you. And then after a period of time, you'll end up finding yourself spiraling into a big sea of what ifs and what could have happened. I mean, that's probably only half her quote.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have it, but it's a version of that. And I think it's so true. I think it's really deceiving, honestly.
I think you guys are being hard on yourselves in taking on that responsibility. I think that's a bigger, higher level of.
At reality TV level, I agree.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
100% agree.
I think there's that you could I don't know how it might be a bit of a grey area, that line in between, but you could probably put them in 2 different camps. I think when you're kind of making your documentaries, you're kind of finding people who are probably quite passionate about what they do and really want to share it, whatever it is.
Well, we're filming
and
them in
you're
their
making
life.
relationships with them in their life, and then
Yeah.
nothing reality. It's almost like they're
trying to
coming
stitch
in
them
on
up.
a game show,
Yeah, okay,
almost sort of idea, and it kind of runs. I mean,
And especially these days, like they're signing up to become famous. They're
Yeah.
signing up because they want that 15 minutes of fame, and
Yeah.
then they want for that to go on and lead to something else. That's 100% why they're signing up. That's how they cast them these days. Everything like that. Where we might just be embedded in their job, their day-to-day thing. So when we leave, they just go back to doing their job. They just don't have a couple of annoying people standing in the corner doing something.
Yeah, no,
asking them how they
That's a
feel.
little one for you, Az.
Oh,
I know
thanks,
you're
buddy.
driving after this, mate.
I think the best way and the simplest way to look at it, in my humble opinion, is in a documentary, you're trying to tell a story from the inside out. So you're trying to really get into their lives and get to know them and tell their story authentically, in their words, as much as possible. With reality shows are constructed by producers sitting in a nice offers coming up with all these format points, and they're telling those stories from the outside in. So they're creating the world and the scenarios and then dropping people in there that they've cast, hoping they're going to get fireworks and people that polarize and people that fight, people that, the audience will fall in love with and they could potentially run a spin-off show with somewhere, So it's, but I do agree, I don't know what that line is, and I spend a lot of time in development now, like coming up with shows, and even that in itself can be really intimate. You spend a lot of time getting to know them because you know that the bit of tape that you make at the end of your development period is what's going to sell the show and potentially get you more business and tell their story, etc. So it's a tricky one, and I haven't figured this one out yet either, but at some point, I think the hit rate is 1 in 20 good ideas you might actually get up and turn into a show. So out of that, if I've gone and spent time with 20 people, but I only get to do one show out of that, so I've got to say goodbye to 19 people over the course of 18 months and say, well, sorry, it's not good enough, or sorry, I can't do this anymore, I can't devote my time. Again, it's almost like, sorry, we can't be friends anymore because I've got to be friends with this person over here because I might be able to get that show up.
That's a little bit
fucking hard.
A little bit tougher even because you haven't gone through the process. It's like, oh, we've looked at your life and and people have deemed it not interesting enough.
Totally.
That's a little bit of a slap in the face.
It's even harder when you're trying to cast because so much of TV now, I believe, is all about cast. It's almost like casting character first and story second, right? So part of my process when I'm trying to find a good story or a good series to develop is to find the cast. And so what I'll try and do really early on is just in those first introductions where I'm just trying to feel my way through it and I haven't committed too much, I probably haven't even met them face to face yet, I'll get them to send me an iPhone video so I can see them and I can see whether or not they can hold their eye contact, so they're not doing this all the time or clocking the camera or whatever it is, the stuff that we can't use. And also see if they can tell the story. Does the camera light up when they smile? Really basic stuff, but fuck, it's important. Because if they can't tick a few of those really simple boxes, there's no show.
So you do that even before, just to kind of keep some separation between you and...
A little bit, yeah. Because that way, if they come back and they're not great talent, they might have the most interesting life and be the most interesting people, and they could be someone that I'd love to watch the footy with on a Friday night. But in that side of my job, it doesn't mean it doesn't matter because that part of my job is trying to find a story and a show to sell, and if the talent's not good enough, it's just not worth pursuing no matter how great the access or the story is. You and I have been down that before. I won't talk about exactly what that show was, but we had we can't because if the people are listening and they hear us talking about how they weren't good enough talent, it'll just it won't be good.
You know how we were filming at your house that week, mate?
That's right. Yeah, I remember.
But it's true. We had the most amazing access, and it was a great story. It would have been perfect, but the talent just wasn't good enough. And we knew it from the start. We could have saved ourselves time and money.
Definitely.
But anyway,
so we're having
some background noise.
There's a rumble.
What is that? It's like a helicopter. No, it's not that.
No, it's gotten heavier.
Don't know.
Could be filming a...
Keep going. It's not that bad.
No, it's all right.
It's fine.
Could be filming a podcast as a zombie apocalypse is about to come down.
Who knows what's happening outside that
This could be one of those found footage films.
Oh, yeah.
What
happened?
Make one of those.
We rock up, we walk out of here drunk, and we just,
and the world has changed.
The world has
The
changed.
world has changed.
I'm sure that's a movie.
Yeah. Well, my world's going to change from talking to you guys tonight, anyway.
Well, are we going to try this?
Well, you got to try it, but don't have a swig of your sweet drink or your beer.
I haven't touched that.
Have a palate cleanser first, mate.
Palate cleanser. Okay, I've been taught something new here.
In the field, making this, mate, to just give to you to mix with your rum and coke. Let it breathe. Let it dance on the palate.
So you're going to tell us a little bit about what you're about to introduce us to here?
Mate, this is let me read the label.
Is this wine company sponsoring the show?
No, this is the wine I made.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know you made fucking wine.
Yes, mate. So I make wine.
Oh,
These two are really good friends.
Yeah.
Talk a lot.
No, so this is the wine me and some guys back in Adelaide make. So is this one here. They're both the wines that we make.
are
So
these your brother-in-laws?
yeah. So these are these
yeah,
guys.
okay.
So and all their kind of building friends. So the story is that my brother-in-law's friend bought a property in McLaren Vale, so one of the best wine regions in the country, if not the best. Beautiful place. He bought a property on the edge of that and it had all these 100-year-old vines on it. Beautiful grapevines, Shiraz vines. But his missus wanted horses. So she wanted to bulldoze them all down. Sam called old mate and said, hey, look, if we chip in, we don't know anything about making wine, but if we all chip in, a few of us, and do that, then we'll help you make it, and a little bit of a side project. And so it's gone on from there, and this is the second year. I don't have much to do with it. I pay a little bit of money. I go there, I pick some grapes, I might help bottle. I'm always on the road, so I miss kind of every event that the guys do, but I get a lot of wine at the end of it, and it tastes pretty darn good. And we've got a winemaker who works in the region who the facilities that these guys build, because they're all in the construction trade, are pretty nice. Like they're those kind of guys that piss you off because they can whip together everything. Unlike you at your house, that you've been building that extension for like 7 years. They can build anything. So they build like these nice facilities. The winemaker across the road was like, that's awesome. If I use that, I'll help you build look after your wine. So he does that. We pay a little bit of money. We pick every year, and we get there early, and we drink too much beer and wine, and pick all the grapes and crush them, ferment them, let it sit in either a French or American oak barrel for a year, and then we pump it out, and it's a great gift to give to people and share. I absolutely love it. So
It kind of fits because it's one of those things. It's very similar to yourself. If you have too much of it in one sitting, you're going to wake up with a really shit headache the next day.
correct,
Yeah.
and you might go blind too. So that's it. So
That's it. So
So try that, mate. Let that dance across the palate. Eh?
Shit, I better have a sit now that
Yeah,
you've
don't
given
have-
that big
don't have a
spiel.
sip.
Yeah, I know.
Canadian club first, mate.
What's the other one? Bundy and what?
Is
was
it preservative free?
Cola?
Yeah, no, it's pretty good, mate. It's pretty. No, it is. We try not to use any spray. We try and make it.
That is actually really
It's
good.
wild.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the
It's
latest
actually
one.
really good.
Yeah, no, it's actually a
Oh my
really
God.
good wine.
It's
Like,
actually really good.
the first year, because I came out in with it after a year. So the first year that the guys make, I wasn't there. That's probably why it was so shit. The first year was like vinegar. So we've still got like if I give you a couple of cartons of wine at home for Christmas,
That's
That's
year's.
batch one.
that's batch one. So you can clean your drains with that.
Yeah.
You can do all sorts of things with that. It's good cooking wine. But this current one came out really, really well. And this one here is a new one that we've got where with a couple of our earlier barrels, not the really shit one, but the earlier ones, the winemaker had some barrels kind of half full as well. So you can't leave the half full barrels there, otherwise it doesn't work or something. So we mix them together to make this kind of odd barrel mix, which is actually pretty good. It's a lighter wine, so not as heavy as that. So that's really heavy classic Shiraz from McLaren Vale, where that's a lot lighter. Still really dark fruit, like dark cherries and stuff like that, and a bit sweet. So try that one next, but it's really different.
So why does it look like the tide's a bit out on that bottle?
Oh, mate.
Does it come out that way, or do you hand feel it?
Yeah, well, we hand fill, so sometimes we go a little bit, easy on them. But we do everything. Like the guys do everything there. Like it's just at the back of this guy's property, and it's one of the. I'll show you some photos, and it's such a fun. Like the grape picking day is the best because we get there at like 4 a.m. The tradition is that we have a beer, like and a shit beer too, not like a boutique beer. We're talking
a bit of Hammer and Tong.
Worse than go down the ladder from Hammer and
VB.
Tong. No, like this is a South Australian,
No.
like West End.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we all scull a West End just to
Proper
get
vile.
there, before the sun comes up, so you get one of those. Maybe have a glass of red wine.
Try and get you all to shit yourselves before you go pick some
Before you
wine.
start
wine.
picking.
Grapes.
That's extra flavour in there for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, they're crushing.
And then we spend the next few hours and we pick some grapes, and then we crush them, have a barbecue. By that time, not really anyone's working too hard because it's the middle of the day and
Everyone's
in
already
late
drunk
summer.
off one can of West End.
Yeah.
Do you do what is it called? That shotgun?
Oh,
Do you shotgun them?
No, I don't think we go.
Yeah.
go
What
to
about
that
a
extent.
shoey? Do you do a shoey?
No, well,
Oh,
shoeys
is this-
went around. Well, because we didn't do one last year, and I don't know. You know, it all depends where everyone is and what's happening, and if we can be bothered. So we didn't do one this year, unfortunately.
A shoey.
No,
No, okay.
pick, but we haven't done a shoey yet.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
because
You
I
do a
don't.
shoey right now.
Shoeys,
like I
are,
wanna do.
Yeah,
shoeys are new
yeah.
things. We're not going to do a shoey.
Be a gum booty, wouldn't it? Like, it'd be big.
Gum booty,
Oh,
yeah.
man, out there in the middle of the summer,
Yeah.
it gets hot down there in summer.
Your Blundstone boot, take it off, fill it with.
at the end of the day.
nasty, nasty.
I know, it's nasty.
Mm-mm.
Nasty indeed.
So the whole thing started a bit heavy, which is probably my fault for bringing up the whole breakup thing.
Yeah, that was heavy. That's all right. You're a heavy
What?
dude.
I don't know. I've lost a bit of weight, mate. I thought you'd notice. What about some Larry shit?
Some malaria shit. That's
Yeah,
What do you
like
mean
some
Larry?
funny stuff.
Oh, yeah, all right. No, I got one.
Oh dear.
I got one. I
Yeah.
told you I was going to tell this story.
When I met Steve, no,
When I met you, mate, you had dreadlocks coming out. You were,
good looking.
yeah, had all your
All
teeth.
my teeth.
Had a house that didn't need renovating.
Yeah, your renovations.
yeah,
you just
yeah.
started that. It was
Yeah,
10
yeah,
years
yeah.
ago.
Had
was
all
good.
that energy.
But the story that I'll tell is that this was a shoot that Cole and I did over in Thailand. We're in Bangkok. So Cole was making a show, and I came over for like a month to kind of help out. And we're embedded. We're allowed to talk about it, aren't we? We're embedded.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
So it's always confusing because you don't know what's still confidential, but the show's out, so it doesn't matter. So we were embedded in the Australian embassy over there. So people would come in and they would have their passport lost, or they'd been beat up, or they've got drunk and in trouble with the police. And we'd kind of work from the point that they walk in back to solve the problem or get them home safely or get them out of trouble with the police. So really cool show to be a part of, especially in Bangkok, because a lot of Australians go there and cause some shit.
Especially a lot of Australians.
Yeah, Australians. So
Yeah.
if it's like our cheap, I don't know what the equivalent is in America, probably going down to Mexico,
Yeah.
Cancun or something like that, and
Mm-hmm.
just going wild. But that's that's Thailand for the Australians. So we go over there and people, drunk bogans, go and get wild. So we're there filming that show. And there's every year there is a
Songkran.
Songkran is it's a 5-day water fight festival.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly how many days. It felt like forever. And it was so annoying because we had all the camera gear and you couldn't walk outside the hotel with your camera in your hand because someone would hit you with a water pistol or throw a bucket of water at you.
Yeah,
So what
right,
it is, the whole city of Bangkok, and I don't know, is it a nationwide thing over there in Thailand?
Yeah.
So it's a nationwide Songkran, it's called. So it's a nationwide water fight for 5 days. So they go, right, this 5 days. It might be a long weekend. They go, it's 3 days.
It's literally they fill the streets. So the busy streets of Bangkok, like in the main city centre, get blocked off and it's a sea of people. It's like being at a music festival where you can't
in the
move.
whole country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's just water fights everywhere.
So it's actually pretty funny because what you do, like every little corner store there sells like giant water pistols and stuff. So you go there, you buy them, and it's on day and night. You could be walking to the shops and then 10 people walk up to you and just blast you.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's hilarious to we obviously got right into it, went to the shops, bought the best guns we can get.
Oh, we were doing a thing where I was climbing a tree. I would have been like 2 stories high in the tree. This is on a day off when we weren't shooting. 2 stories high in a tree, and you and a friend of ours, Sandra, would distract them and step out and ask them a question to distract them. And then I just pepper them from the top.
But you could get anyone, like the lady walking her kids to school.
Yeah.
And you
This is all fair game.
fair game. You
Yeah.
drive past in a little tuk-tuk. You pay the tuk-tuk driver to drive around.
Yeah.
And you just blast them. We were the drunk Australian bogan just going, hey, happy Songkran.
Everyone would have fucking
everyone-
hated us. They would have hated us.
But they got so pissed off. But then they also had to accept it. They're like,
Yeah.
you got me.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got me. I'm going to a wedding and I'm in my wedding dress. But you got me. Thanks very much. So, and it's always really tough when it gets done back to you because you're there. And then you walk out and you're not expecting it. You've got your sandwich. You walk out of the shop and then someone just blasts you and they're laughing at you and they're like, I gotcha. And you're just like, was that piss? What was in that water pistol? I'm not going to eat this sandwich. So it's frustrating as hell. So anyway, and then it culminates on one night, like the big Saturday night is the big, everyone going on the streets, the water fight is on, you are going to get drenched.
It's so good because I know exactly where this whole story is going.
So we go, yep, let's make a night of it. We're not working early the next morning because it was 7 days a week kind of shoot as they always are. We're not working there next morning. Let's go out and have a night of it. So we went out. We're all dressed up, Larry. I don't know if we had face paint on, but
you know what? There's a photo on Facebook. Pull it up now. That's what it looked like. Well, that's for you to get the photo up when you edit.
Right. Oh, right. Oh,
you with me?
Oh, see, you're editing. Like, I'm not keeping
come
up.
on.
Jeez.
Stay with me.
You must be a filmmaker.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can tell he spent more time in the field than in post.
Jeez. Okay, so there's the photo.
You study it closely.
Yeah, study it closely. 100% not going to put that photo. And then so we're out on the town. We're having a good time. Like, it's big festival kind of thing. You're in this main street there is packed full of people. It's like a big music festival. You're walking around spraying people.
Literally tens of thousands of people.
Oh, yeah.
All having a big mega
water
fight.
fight. Everyone's drinking on the street.
Yeah.
You're drinking Bing Tang and having a good time. And
we were with Sandra.
Bintang,
with
isn't it?
Sandra.
Balinese?
We were with...
yeah, it's probably the wrong country, but we were drinking cheap Asian beer.
Yeah. Anyway, we're drinking beer, lots of it. We were with Sandra, and Sandra was hungry.
Oh, we were all hungry.
We were all
Can't go-
hungry, and
can't get
Sandra was
water
hungry, and she said to us, let's go see what we can find. So we went to the edge of this crossing, this big intersection.
Well, what there is, like there's the main street, and when you're looking for food, the main street's got like the big fancy shops on it, and all the little side streets is where all the, the stalls and
The
stuff
good
on.
street food is.
Yeah, you want good street food, you get
Yeah.
some like Thai noodles or something over there, and it's just delicious. So we go, well, let's find, like, we're all hungry, we've been water fight, we've been drinking, we've been having a good time. Let's go to the next kind of cross street, go down there, and they'll just find a little old lady selling noodles or something, and we'll smash a big food.
Sandra specifically wanted noodles,
We
and that's
just
a very important plot point in the story, right?
Well, it's definitely leads to the naming of the story. So we're walking along. All right, there's our next kind of alley up there. Let's go down there. So we start walking closer to this alley, and then it becomes like a bit of a vortex.
Yeah, we get stuck.
Well, everyone starts kind of moving into this.
Alley.
Into this alley. So, there's a lot of people heading the same direction. So you can't just turn around and go the other way. So we're like, okay, cool. We'll get down this alley. We'll find something. We're going in this alley. And then it starts getting really tight in this alley. And it's really, really tight in there.
You're stuck going one way. You
You're
can't
stuck.
really turn around. You're stuck because everyone's pushing against you. You can't branch out. And it's like, all right, so we're full blown. We have to go to the end of the alley.
There's one trail of people weaving through all these other people.
Like a funnel, sort of.
Like
thing.
a funnel, yeah. So we've funneled into this alley, which is fine because we're going that way to get
We
some
want noodles
We want
in the
noodles.
alley.
And then I go, oh, shit, someone just tried to pickpocket me. But they didn't grab my wallet because I didn't know, like I had my wallet tucked somewhere else. They grabbed the family jewels by accident. And I go, oh, okay, all right, they're trying to, guys, be careful.
Steady on, and then
Be careful. Like there's a few pickpockets because we're in close quarters pushing our way through.
And I start feeling a few pickpockets.
Yeah,
if
couple
you want to call them pickpockets.
And then the pickpocket went for it again, grabbed the family jewels for a second time.
Is it a bit harder this time?
Yeah,
a bit softer?
yeah. And then, so we're walking along, and I'm just going, oh, this is a bit weird. Like, what's going on? Then the butt gets a bit of a grab. And this is where the story gets dark as shit.
This is where things get real.
Yeah, this is
Mchawala.
this is... So, the thing about being in Asia and being a 6'4" really pale white guy with a big nose is you stand out. You stand out like all buggers. So I'm a foot taller than everyone, and I'm looking around, and I've realised I'm stuck in this thing. They're not trying to pickpocket me. They're going for the family jewels every time. I'm getting a little bit of a grope in here. I can't do anything about it. I'm just walking this line.
You're in this funnel.
I'm in
aren't
this
you? You're
vortex.
jammed in.
He's
And
a big
I'm getting-
man. I wonder how big he's...
Yeah.
Is it
check
true
out.
what they
Check
say?
it out. Yeah.
The
Hale,
dead-
6 foot.
The dead giveaway, and not to steal your thunder, but I think we saw the same thing at the same time.
Oh,
It was over on one of these side stalls, a big Thai man lifting up a little Asian man and just holding him up high and then just burying his face into his ass.
So this...
And it was
you
just...
heard it right.
Yeah, dark. You said something.
Yeah,
That
shit.
gets dark.
And
Shit
so
gets
we
dark.
just put our heads down. We're like, we got to get the fuck out of this alley
So
straight away.
what we'd realised is it was kind of like a giant orgy. It was a giant... homosexual orgy alley, and that's fine. Like I got no problems with them having an alley where they have an
So why is
orgy.
10,000 people coming down?
I don't know. But
vortex.
Or were they
yeah.
following you to the noodle shop?
It's Thailand,
Yeah,
and some
yeah.
weird shit happens in Thailand. And good on them for having an orgy, but you don't want to be a 6 foot tall white guy walking through that because people think you're fair game. And it would have been a 50-50 ratio of people in there. 50% of them were banging in some way, and 50% were just having a drink and just like a chat. So they were getting ready to do that. So we're stuck in this vortex. We can't turn around. There's just this kind of giant orgy going on around. People are grabbing me non-stop. I'm walking, like doing karate chops as I walk.
And the funny thing was too is that we had Sandra in the middle of us as well. So you're at the front, I was at the back, Sandra's in the middle. And Sandra's quite an attractive German lady. I don't know why it matters that she's German, but she's a little bit German and she's quite an attractive lady. She wasn't getting touched.
Wasn't getting
touched.
Yeah.
We had hands coming everywhere. So we're just head down. Let's just get the hell out of this alley. We'll make it to the end. Everything will be sweet.
And she's nice and short too, so she's not seeing over the crowd. She's not seeing past a couple of people like talking here to see the wider vision of
To
this.
her, it's like noodles. I'm just gonna get noodles.
Well, hey guys, we're coming to noodles.
Yeah,
Don't get pickpocketed. And so,
Everyone's fully clothed at this stage?
No,
not everyone's fully
mate.
closed. No,
Didn't the naked people give it away?
no, because they were
You
tucked
can't
at the
see
back.
them. You
They
can't
were-
see them because the crowd is here.
The crowd is.
You are jammed in like you're at the front of trying to get to Oasis when you're 18. You know, like you are jammed in. You couldn't see them until they're right on top of you.
Yeah,
Oh,
and then you
shit.
didn't see it
Yeah.
until you're right in there. And then, sure, there was a few tables with people going at it, like they were a bit higher, that once you got down the alley, you realised that they were putting some things on show as well. People still water fighting, so you're getting sprayed with this stuff, which
It
makes
was
it a
water.
little
Are
bit,
you sure it was water?
Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, it felt like we could have been in there. Like it was an uncomfortable situation for me. I'm sure those guys were having a great time. Good on them. But-
Were you aroused at all?
A little
Is
bit.
that why it was uncomfortable?
That is
little
a
bit.
very important question.
Yeah, I was a little bit around. I don't know why I had to take my pants off. I just thought it was an appropriate thing to do.
Easier access, like just make it
Exactly.
get out there quicker, slide through the
Yeah,
crowd.
so we've got to get through. We
So-
have to get through to the end.
Because
of
we
the
still want
alley.
freaking noodles. So, like this
I
is
wasn't thinking about noodles.
Was
at
there
the time.
noodles at the end of this
No,
time?
I was thinking
So-
about. I was just thinking about getting out.
So we pushed through, and it felt like we were there for hours, but it was probably like 2 minutes to keep pushing through this crowd, getting karate chopping people. Get to the end, it's a dead end street. Like it's closed off. There's a giant like fence, and so like there's a little like reprieve station where you can like there's a little bit of breathing room down the end, but then the only way out
Back through Noodle Alley.
is to run back through Noodle Alley. That is it. That's all you can do is just go back through there and do it all again.
Was it like a temporary fence they'd put up, like here in
No.
Australia? Like
I
you
don't
can
know.
only
It's a
drink
proper
alcohol
gate.
in the fence, but you can
No.
only orgy inside the fence.
There's a
Yeah.
proper gate.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I would argue that him being a foot taller than everyone else, like he said,
should have
should
seen
have
it.
fucking seen the dead end. Should have seen it.
I was in
Instead of
my
being
water
slightly
slide
Enjoying
zone.
his.
And then I was
water
just
fight,
looking down, just like going, right, like, keep your hand off my business, please.
Now, as the story ends up,
Yeah.
the next day you were feeling a bit ill.
I was feeling it. The story gets dark. And
Yeah,
very
it gets
real,
really
very-
dark. So you were
very-
feeling a bit sick, and you didn't come in and you said, "Kyle, I just want to go get checked out. I'm feeling a bit crook." I'm like, "No worries. We had a late day. I went in, and then I get a phone call from you to come and meet you at the hotel." Because I'm like, okay, he's probably been to one of the medical centres, going to let us know what's
Oh,
going
really
on.
ill.
Really?
Really ill.
Yeah, like he had a sore throat, and we thought he had a cold because there's a lot of water, a lot of bacteria. We're thinking, what's...
Well, we were in. I was there. You were there for a lot longer, but I was in Thailand for a month with you, and we worked 7 days a week, and we worked hard. There were long days. We'd work in the night. The air pollution over there, it was kind of like, it was, I thought my throat was going. I was talking nonstop, producing, doing what I do, and by the end, I'm talking like this. So I was kind of starting to get like, I really need some throat lozenges because this pollution is killing me. And we went out to Noodle Alley the night before, which meant, we were yelling and screaming and having a good time. So my voice was a bit off colour.
A lot of yelling, a lot of drinking. We're like, okay, Steve's caught a cold or he's caught something. I remember getting in and going into his hotel room, and he looked kind of pale. Like I knew he wasn't well, but he looked pale, like he'd been feeling sick. And I said, "Oh, what's going on, mate? What did the doctor have to say?" And I can remember it vividly. Like I can see the room and I can see your face. telling me, no, mate, it's actually really bad. They think I've got cancer. And it was a horrific moment.
Yeah.
I mean, from my point of view as it stood, but I can't even imagine what was going through your fucking
head. It was definitely one of the strangest times in my life to be there and just be going through such a wacky experience, and then to have that where you go to the hospital and
for a lozenge,
like for a sore throat, or just, I've got something caught in my throat, or something's wrong, or I should stop speaking for a while. And then for the doctor in kind of broken English to kind of feel around. He was a good doctor because he obviously knew what he was doing. To feel around and just go in broken English, tell me that he thinks I have cancer. You're just like, hang on, wait. No, you're wrong. Yeah, like and then it just kind of it went on. I did have cancer, and then obviously you guys know the rest from there. But it was definitely,
people listening don't though. So give them the version. Like people have come this far down Noodle Alley with you.
Yeah,
they want to hear how you got cancer from Noodle Alley.
I checked with the doctor, and I didn't catch it from any of the liquids that was sprayed into my mouth.
Wasn't your body reacting in a way saying, I no longer want to live after my Noodle Alley experience? You're fucking going down.
I felt good in Noodle Alley.
Yeah, like Noodle Alley was a little bit too much for my system. I admit that, but I don't think
your body just shut up shop.
My body just went after Noodle Alley, But there was a lot of joy in Noodle Alley. There was a lot of joy and happiness in Noodle Alley. I appreciate those guys for having a
go.
They were having a go. They were having a great Saturday night. Like, I don't blame them. Like, they were having a great Saturday night. I just don't want to buy noodles from down that alley where the wild homosexual orgies happening. So anyway, back to having cancer.
You don't hear that as a segue very often, do you? Yeah, so anyway, back to my cancer.
Yeah. So I had cancer. You guys know the story. I had cancer. I had treatment for 6 or 7 months. It was full on, a lot of chemo. Come out the other side, and then kind of game on as usual.
And it was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or Hodgkin's lymphoma?
Non-Hodgkin's. I should know that. Like I should, but. And this is going to sound strange, the actually going through chemo and going through that, though it was an interesting life experience, it doesn't define my life or shape my life. And I know a lot of people, when they get cancer or do something like that, they're like, did your perspective on life change? Or like, how did that change your world? And they have this thing like my world's changed from that point. But I feel very fortunate that for a long time I've been doing everything that I've wanted to do. I've been traveling, I've been working, doing this stuff. So in the scheme of my life, that isn't a sliding door moment. That isn't anything critical that changed my life. Sure, it was an interesting, and I look at it from, this is my documentary directing hat on. It was an interesting experience to live, but it was very similar to going through a show. It was just under a year. And it was intense, and I had to go to the hospital, and I had to meet all these different people that I hope I never have to see again under those circumstances. But it wasn't a hugely life-changing moment where my world changed and I stopped and I changed direction at what I was doing. And I look at that as a reaffirming thing to say, I'm doing all right in my life. Like, I'm doing all right because I'm doing something that makes me happy. A lot of people get to that point. From what I'm told is they get to that point and go, fuck, I need to change everything that I'm doing.
Maybe it was that life affirming thing. You just didn't need to change anything.
Yeah, well that is true. As like it was in a certain way. Like it goes, hang on, I don't have a lot of regrets. Like if I don't make it and I drop dead, geez, I've had a good run. And that's pretty cool. To think that was pretty cool. Sure, I didn't want to die, and I didn't want to be going through chemo anymore, and that was shit. But it was still, not as big a deal as I thought it would be. And I'm sure it is to some people, and I don't want to take away from them and go, it's not a big deal, because the type of cancer that I had is probably, if you want a type of cancer, if you have to have a type of cancer, that's the best you can get. Like, it's not liver, it's not in your bones, not in the blood.
Guts.
Yeah, it's not in some, like, it's in my lymph nodes that they can do shit about, and they caught it early. So, it's I was very fortunate to have been fixed up pretty quick.
It's interesting though, because I agree with a lot of what you said, but you have changed, man. You might not know that or be able to see that, but no, you have, and not in and not in a big.
Don't you hate it when your friends say you've changed?
Here we
You've
go.
changed.
Here we go.
But not in a big U-turn thing. It's actually just, I think, your general approach to life, your general state of being. I actually think you're a lot more relaxed and confident within yourself. Actually, I think there is I think it reaffirmed things in your life that you were doing that you want to do more of, and that has shifted your focus, and it's changed. I don't know, man. Just
Did that happen overnight in that period, or has that happened? Because I also think that comes with age. I think that comes with a little bit of time and experience, and I can say that kind of about you too, and all of you guys, that we kind of we've known each other since we were so young that you kind of get out of your 20s and into your 30s, and you're a bit more sure of yourself, and you're a bit more mature, and you go through life experience. And I'm not saying that life experience didn't add to the equation that makes me today, because it certainly did. But I think in a certain way we all go through that at a certain age.
I hear you, and I would say that it did. I reckon it accelerated in you more than it accelerated in me, honestly.
Yep.
And it's hard to put a thing on exactly what the moment was, but just we talk on the phone a fair bit if we're not in the same city or whatever it is, and you could hear it in your voice, man. You did, and it was, again, it wasn't this big U-turn midlife crisis type scenario.
Epiphany.
No, it wasn't like that. It was just I think a lot of it was a confidence and a drive to live the kind of life you want to live, and that just happened to be basically what you were doing. You were just you were a lot more aware of it and a lot more driven to achieve it.
Oh, well, thank you, mate.
Not a compliment. You're an asshole.
Yeah.
But
oh, well, that's heroin addicts and cancer, hey?
What's next? No,
I don't know. You tell me. Sieh Mchawala.
No, I was actually going to continue with that. I think you have, and you're one of these people that, I haven't spent anywhere near as much time as you have with Cole, but there's that jump. You became a lot more self-reflective, thought about stuff a bit more, like what's his name in that book? That guy from the SEALs. What was his name again?
Oh, I forget. I don't know why I forget. I think he's an absolute legend. But just do that voice again, then I'll help you out. Jocko. Yeah, that's
it. Have you heard of Jocko?
I haven't heard of Jocko, but he's my new favourite.
Jocko's
Steve's boyfriend, right?
When I read that book, like a year or two ago, I read his book.
He makes decision making.
Oh,
He turns it into a show, mate.
Have you read that book, Az?
No.
Oh, mate. All right. I'm going to get you, both you boys, a copy of this book. No, I'll get the audio book, and then you can hear Jocko's voice. Iraq, 2005, Delta Platoon, under attack. And I thought, what would a good leader do in this time? Anyway, that's what he goes on like the whole book. And by the end of it, you were like, hell yes, I'm going to do something good with my life. I'm going to get you both the audio book on that. What's the book called? I can't even remember.
I've forgotten now.
Jocko's
Something
Modern
Jocko's yeah.
No,
but it's a Navy SEAL.
Extreme ownership.
It's not that-
it was extreme ownership.
It's not that dude that ran like the full marathons and stuff. That guy that you.
No,
He probably
you're
did
thinking,
50 marathons, mate.
You're
in
thinking
one
of
day.
Dave Goggins.
Dave Goggins, yeah.
Yeah, which is
Fucking
another one.
Jocko.
I read those books back to back, and if you want to change your life more than getting cancer, read. Why did you said the name of it? It's Jocko Willings. Extreme Ownership.
That's
by
right.
Jocko Willings and David Goggins, whatever his book's called that he released at the same time. Two of the most fuck yeah, let's change my life kind of things. These guys just take no prisoners. Both Navy SEALs, both extraordinary men amongst extraordinary men. They are just brilliant, and two of the best books I've ever read.
I enjoy their talk. I don't know if I'd agree with you, the best men, but
Speaking of men and your winemaking abilities,
Yeah.
do you think men in general have lost a certain amount of manly abilities, like the old days?
Oh, I don't know. Wait. He's done wine.
Yeah. What else
Right.
has he done?
Can he do a goat?
What, can I kill a goat?
Can you
I
kill
just
a goat?
mean-
No,
I mean
we're
things
talking raw
like-
manliness
yeah.
here. Can you kill a goat?
Killing
okay,
goats,
you can give us
or,
wine. Can you bring
or
us
dressing
a
an
goat? All right?
dressing an animal, or making cheese.
I'm not
you know
continuing until you bring in a dead goat.
yeah.
All right.
No,
all
no,
right.
a live one, and then make it.
Well, I'm going to answer
that's
Az's
real,
question
man.
seriously. No, I think the skills people need in life have changed significantly because we don't need those skills. So
What if we had a meltdown of,
Zombie apocalypse.
zombie apocalypse? That's
Even
happening
just a
outside from
recession
that
where
weird noise.
all the money just disappears, the money that doesn't exist?
Yeah, those skills are really important. Do I ever think we'll go to that state where society collapses so much that if you don't know how to kill a goat, you're screwed? No, I don't think we will. Are those skills really handy? Is there a resurgence of people finding or men finding having those skills as a purpose? Yeah, I do, and I think that's really important for them. And I think any man having a purpose, but I don't know if those skills are exactly what you need to be a man these days. I'm sure there's a stack of really, really great men that haven't built a house or killed a goat or made delicious wine.
I think you need a stylish haircut, a beard,
Or a
to
nice
ro-
hat.
and a nice,
nice,
like a VW van or
Look
a
at you,
Mercedes
you've-
van, and roast coffee.
You've got
Mate,
a
like
stylish
how many
beard, a
and
hat.
have some sort of aged beef business.
Mm.
That kind of always seems to work well. A lot of really sort of manly men
Manly man.
look like they do.
All right, your turn, Sieh Mchawala.
Oh, my turn.
Yeah,
oh,
mate.
God. Yeah,
Mate.
Where were we? We were.
Well, you were telling us a story because when I first met you, right, when Colin and I first heard of you, right, we heard of this guy who'd just gone to Ethiopia.
Ethiopia.
Ethiopia,
Yeah,
that's
that
the
one, that
wine
place.
kicking in.
Yeah.
Ethiopia to film a documentary on they were brother and sister, weren't they? Brother and sister who
Yeah.
were going to set up a medical facility over there. And they had zero experience. They were like a first year nursing student or something.
Yeah. Well, actually, when Kira actually first
Put
started,
that bad boy in front of you.
when Kira first started, she actually had, I think she just finished high school. But then, there was the nursing experience. That ended up being like a five-year journey. I mean, that was apprenticeship for me, I think, in filmmaking.
So was that the first one you've done, or the first?
Yeah, that was so I'd finished the film school, and then I think it was about a year later, I was lucky enough to get a directing job for an SBS doc. Like, it was a half hour. And then once we started filming it, it was like, oh yeah, this could be an hour. And, the commissioning editor went, yeah, you can do an hour, but let's come back after the Christmas holidays. So I suddenly had this little break, and I'd met this girl, Kira. And they were going to Ethiopia, and, the camera guy on this SBS doco kind of inspired me to go and shoot something. So anyway, you start this journey, you borrow a camera, you go off, and you think you're going to be a filmmaker. Then you suddenly realize this thing has no end. It just kept going. It was a 6-week stint, and then suddenly became a 5-year stint. And I still remember, this. I actually had a big breakup on this one. I actually, I'm very good friends with these guys at the moment. But it was one of those moments where I think at the end of this shoot, it was gut wrenching. And I remember it ended up in India. So, first they went. I was very skeptical about A-Work. I kind of still am, but they were going out as these sort of new, fresh face, straight out of school.
They were so young too.
Yeah, they
When
were so young. But
anyone wants to do aid work and they don't have a huge life experience or skills that can actually help in any way. You go,
Yeah.
that's cool, because I did want to do it too. I'm not going to say that when I was a 19, 20-year-old guy that I want to start this or do this charity or do this. Like, of course we do. But can we do it? Yeah.
Can we do it? Well, it's one of those things you could debate till the cows come home. But I think the thing that stood out about them in particular was they were very open to make mistakes. You don't meet many. We were talking about mistakes earlier, being able to own your own mistakes. They were very open. They were very honest and very vocal. Right? It wasn't. They were idealistic, yes, but I think they were also very good. They were very happy to kind of go, oh, you know what, that didn't work. Let's try this, and it was not a big deal. They weren't sort of stuck in this militant way of, I've got to make these people become Western. That means it'll save the world. Like they're just kind of they still went along with it and put their passion in it, and they've made relationships out there. Which I actually just went with them a couple of months ago again. back to where they're. So there's
Oh,
still,
really?
there's still, yeah, there's still, it's like a lifetime. I think
So they just to
They pretty
catch
much-
everyone up. These two young people, brother and sister, they wanted to go to Ethiopia to start a hospital. You followed them over there, like them learning to do it. They got some support, or
Yeah, no, so what it okay, let's go back a little bit. So Kira, so she finished high school and spun the globe, put her finger down, ended up in Ethiopia. Right, her childhood hero was Mother Teresa. Okay, so she wanted to save the world. Anyway, ended up in this in the Afar region, sort of the northeast side of Ethiopia, out in the desert, and asked, she ended up teaching English. She went traveling, taught English. And everyone said, oh, we'd like help him, blah, blah. And they said, we need a school. So she went, no worries. She went back to Australia, convinced her brother and a boyfriend at the time and a friend, and they raised some, doing fundraising dinners, and they raised 12 grand. Went back and went, let's go build this school. Anyway, they got there and they're like, well, we don't really want a school, we want a clinic. All right, so okay, no worries. So they built a clinic. Luckily, they did it. I mean, they did everything illegally. We kind of calculated later, it would have cost them 100 grand if they went through the right channels.
just in like government
Just
fees.
government fee, but the whole thing, your Land Cruiser hire, all that sort of thing that aid workers like to do. And anyway, so they did that, came back to Australia, and then left it. And just by fluke, the health minister was traveling through the Afar, and they bumped into him. She's like, "Oh, what are you, Aussies doing out here?" And they're like, "Oh, we're building a clinic." "Oh, really? I'm the health minister." And they're like, "Oh, okay, we built your clinic." And they're like, "Okay," and so they were able to hand it over to the government. She was really happy to take it on, and came back to Australia. I met them. I went, and I was very skeptical. Like, okay, here's a couple of kids from Adelaide who've gone to an African desert and built a clinic, but is it going to be another empty building sitting out there? That's kind of how I jumped in, kind of coming in, and they were very happy to argue with me about it. So that kind of worked. So off we went. I thought it was going to be, the chief's new house or something.
Yeah.
So we rocked up there, but the government had put in a nurse, had put in medication, like they do remote communities out here. They send someone in from the city, student, they go do a stint, and basic medication. Anyway, and then that led to maybe we need other stuff, and that's gone on and on. Anyway, I started making film with that, but of course the main character Kira, who I was filming, also had a boyfriend. Suddenly became pregnant. Suddenly I'm filming a birth. Suddenly I'm back in Africa, back in Australia, and we got babies, and then they're getting married, and then we're gonna have a big wedding in India.
It goes on and on.
And it goes on and on. So every time I thought I've come to an end, they're like, "Oh, we're doing this now," or "This is happening now," or something. There'll be this surprise. And talking about funny stories, actually, there was so Kira, who's we'd come back on one of the trips. We've been back a while, and Kathy Beats, I don't know if you met her, but she produced my first film, but had also been, still is actually a bit of a mentor I call all the time, but she helped me a lot along the journey. So I'd always call her, or go and see her. And we'd come back to Oz, and I went to Kira. I said, "Look, I think let's just go to Kath's place. She's lent us this camera. Let's put the camera down. I promise I won't film. I won't do anything. We'll just have a glass of wine. We'll hang out, and then I'll drop you back home. And let's just have camera free time." Yeah. Anyway, we rocked up there, and we drank a few bottles of wine, said goodbye, and I'm driving Kira back, and she looks at me, and she has this sort of moment of kind of almost like panic, and goes, "Shit, I think I'm pregnant, and I've just drunk wine," right? This is a girl that maybe drinks half a glass of wine once in a blue moon, yeah? We've just polished off a few bottles. And I'm looking at her, "Yeah, right, come on, you've had a few wines, you're a bit drunk, now you think you're pregnant. I mean, really, okay?" She goes, "No, I really think I'm pregnant, and this is not good." So I had a couple of DVDs. I thought, "Oh, yeah, I'll drop it." This was on McGill Road, yeah? I thought I'll drop them off. So I went into the chemist, and I bought a pregnancy test, came back, gave it to her, and she's like, "Okay." Started driving it. She's like, "Oh, I need a cup." I was like, "Oh." So I pulled into Shell, the server, and I grabbed a cup.
She couldn't wait.
Yeah. No, we were heading. So we're heading to Goodwood from Rostrevor.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a trek, right? And I said, just do it. Get it out of your system.
In the car?
Yeah. No, out in the bushes. So I pulled out in this little bushes. So I'm ringing, the girlfriend at the time, trying to arrange, I'll can I come round after?
Honey, I'm going to be home soon. I'm just in the car with Kira.
Yeah.
We just need to make sure she's not pregnant.
She's just
nothing sus.
Nothing sus.
Everything's
stopped
fine.
at the
I
side
love
of the
you,
road.
baby.
She's doing a test.
We're
So
in the
imagine
bushes.
this,
We're in
yeah,
the
yeah.
bushes on the side of the highway. She's peeing in a cup, honey. This is
So I'm on the phone,
dodgy
right?
as shit,
So
man.
I'm sitting there on the phone. I don't know, did you ever see my old green Land Rover? Anyway, I'm sitting there and the light's on. She runs off into the bush and I'm sort of chatting there, trying to arrange when where I can go. I'm just dropping Kira off, whatever. Anyway, next thing you know, I get this cup with a pregnancy test in it shoved in my face going, Sieh, get off the phone. Get off the fucking phone. Get off the phone. I'm like, oh, and I look around and she's like this panic mode. And I'm like, well, okay, I'll call you back. Hang up the phone. And I'm looking, she's going, oh my God. She's like, I think I'm pregnant. I really am. She's showing me this thing. And there's for one moment as a filmmaker, I was going, oh my God. And I left the fucking camera, right? This whole time. The moment I've been waiting for, I'd left the camera at Kath's place.
But see, nowadays, you just whip out the fucking iPhone.
Oh.
You just film them on the phone.
I
Back in your day,
yeah. No, I
Back in
think
your
I had
day,
these, what was it? The
You would have
Z,
like a
this
Nokia.
Razor. What was it? The Razor phone. What was that one?
You're showing your age there, sir.
You know, the flip.
Oh, the flip,
the
the
flipper.
really thin one.
Yeah, it's called the Razor.
Yeah,
They're bringing a new one out, by the way.
Ooh.
Oh, that was
Razor's-
like, I was the
Razor's
man
making
with
a
that
comeback.
phone.
Yeah.
I had the Razor.
not
Anyway.
the Nokia 1610. That was a good one.
Ooh.
1610, was that the big, like the blue squarey kind
Yeah.
of one? Like that? That was
Yeah.
good. That was
Brick,
a
the
solid
brick.
phone.
Would it have been
Brick.
able
You
to
put it in
film
your
a
backpack.
pregnancy test in the
Yeah.
back of a car, though?
Yeah.
No, you could play Snake on it.
Yeah,
yeah,
snake.
A good old snake.
Yeah,
Anyway.
but now you do. I film
Yeah.
so much stuff on my phone now. Like I'm just like, something's happening. Where's the camera? Who
Where's
cares?
the camera? Oh, yeah.
Doesn't
Pick up the
matter.
phone. Yeah.
Pick
Oh,
up the
man,
phone.
totally.
Yeah.
And with the right light, you can hardly tell the difference,
Mm.
actually, when it's on. I mean, we made that embassy show we were talking about before.
Yep.
So much shit I filmed on the iPhone because you have to be so low-key with it.
Yeah.
Even though we had permits to be there, we didn't have permits to be everywhere.
Mm.
I can remember filming in a military hospital where a guy who'd been run over by a motorbike, somehow it was his fault that this accident had happened and he had to go meet the guy that ran over him who was in the military hospital and apologise and strike a deal to avoid insurance or something like that. I wasn't allowed to film in there, so I was literally there with my phone going, yeah, and deliberately taking the big camera out, putting it in the car, not filming. And then I'm walking around the hospital like this going, say that again? Like, so much. You
Yeah,
do so much on
you
it,
do.
eh? Dodgy.
Dodgy.
So she was preggers.
Yeah, she was pregnant. Oh, right. Yeah, she was
Sorry.
pregnant, right? So she's like, I need to go to my boyfriend, Sonny. I'm like, yeah, can I go get the camera first? And she's like, no. And I was like, all right, fair enough. Let's just get a bottle of champagne because she didn't know what to do, Like, what
Oh,
do
that's
I
why
do?
you're pregnant. Let's
I
get
go,
some champagne.
Oh, no,
How
it's
do we
like the
freak
bottle-
out?
how
No,
do we
that
start
was
here?
wine.
yeah.
That's right. It was because
That's the way
I
said.
drank some wine. Well, let's get some champagne.
Yeah.
Let's get some more. Anyway, I said, look, let's get a bottle of champagne, and if he's really happy and thinks it's amazing, we'll pop the bottle and great. And if he's like, no, we need to talk
him over
here,
the head with
I'll
it.
bail, and all good. So we went and grabbed the champagne, rocked up there, and of course, Aiden, Kira's brother and husband, well, boyfriend at the time, Sonny, are doing some renovations on the house. About 10 o'clock at night here, yeah, banging away, and we walk in the door, all both half cut, and she walks in and says, "Oh, Sonny, I'm pregnant." And he sort of looks over and says, right, so you and Sieh have gone out to have some wine and now you're coming in and trying the pregnant thing on me. Really? Like, okay, nice one. And goes back to banging at the wall or whatever they're doing. She's like, no, really, Sonny, I'm pregnant. Anyway, he finally kind of sits down like, are you serious? Yeah, okay. And then there was the cheers and I ran off and got the camera. Came back an hour later and tried to, this is when you try and recreate moments, but it just didn't work.
Never
It
works,
just-
does it?
Hey,
didn't work.
remember how you got randomly told you were
Pregnant?
your
Can you
girlfriend
just
was
bring
pregnant?
that? Yeah.
Hey, remember how you peed in a cup in the bushes?
Can
We just go do that again? I want to get a shot of it.
Yeah, I get a close up.
Yeah, too easy.
Yeah. But that all ended after the wedding. Sonny and Keeks went to the Taj, so that was the big thing. He'd always said, "I'll only ever go to the Taj with the girl I love." So it was all kind of a bit romantic, And
I went to the Taj with you, Geddes.
oh yeah. That's
Here we
lovely.
are.
Yeah. And I remember walking in and
Noodle
the
alley.
security.
Strikes again.
yeah, I know. And the security was like, "No, you can't bring in your." I had remember the XL1 Canon camera? Yeah. And he said, "No, you can't bring that in." I said, "Oh, why?" "Oh, the microphone's too big." I said, "Oh, really?" I looked at him. Okay, so I took the microphone off and gave it to a friend to bring in.
Yep.
And then he let me in, so I went in. I was like, "Oh, okay, that was easy," you know.
Strange as hell.
Yeah, all right. And then friend came in with the radio mics. I mean the camera mic. So I put that on, and I literally wanted one shot, and it was to follow them from behind as they walk round the corner through the arches, and then
The
Big
Montage.
reveal.
yeah, the big reveal, right? And I was like, okay, I'll set it up. This will be really quick, and then I'm going to leave you guys to your romantic moment, and I'm going to piss off, right? And great. So they walk in, holding hands, you know, that's one chance to get it. Start rolling. And I was actually walking backwards with them, and then I was going to turn with them as they, you know, whatever. Anyway, just as I come around the corner and I'm about to kind of frame, you know, this big archway with the Taj, this hand jumps out in front of me. "Sorry, sir, you can't film here." You can't film here. And I was like, "What? I just need this shot." And I started arguing with this guy. He said, no, you got it. And he pulled the camera off me. And anyway, that was the,
It's
that
in
was
those
the end of that
moments.
shit.
Was that you by yourself?
That was
there
me by
any-
myself.
Yeah.
No,
So
no.
here's the thing, because you need someone to help with the distractions.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I remember filming in in Thailand, and we got wind that there was a guy in jail who had been locked up because he tried to commit fraud. He tried to write a report to the police officers in Thailand.
Aussie guy.
Aussie guy that he'd had like $1,600 worth of money and jewelry stolen. It was
Yeah.
all bullshit to get insurance.
Yeah.
We got wind of it, so we went to Phuket, and then we went to try and find him. We knew which cop shop he was in, and then so what we did was we found the guy in the cells, which was sort of away from the police station.
Yeah. And what
And
do you
I-
mean away? Like,
Like it was like 50 meters on the other side of the car park of the cop shop.
yeah,
right?
right. Yep.
And so I've said to this guy, Ben, who was the other producer, like, right, here's what we're going to do. You take the iPhone, you go and film an interview with him in his jail cell, get friendly with him, get to know him, etc., etc. I'm going to be your distraction.
Mhm.
So he's gone off, and so I've gone into the big head honchos, chest puffed out, having a chat, being all charmy, yada, yada, yada. And while I'm talking to him, thinking I've got maybe 5 minutes here to just distract so nobody goes near the jail cell. And the whole time I'm watching other police walk back, and I jump out and go, "Oh, hey, mate, what about you? Can you do this? Come over here."
Yeah.
Like, it was like Faulty Towers shit.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was epic because we got like a 5-6 minute interview with this guy behind a jail cell, like bars, almost half crying, telling us his whole story. And it's like, you need the distraction, man.
Yeah.
You need the
I
distraction.
needed the fucking distraction
you
there,
do.
mate.
Yeah, I've done that
was it.
before. I've done that before. Where so it was a nothing shoot, but we're at the airport here, just trying to get some shots of someone going in or coming out of the airport, and the person I was with was just talking to security, just going, "Oh, why can't we film here? What's that mean?" "Oh, okay." And by the time they had spoken to them for 3 minutes, and I shot very sneakily. I did have the camera there, just going, "Oh yeah, okay, security guy, yep, okay, cool. All right, we'll stop filming." "Yeah, no, I understand. We'll stop filming." And by the time we'd finished that conversation, I kind of shot.
You got what you needed.
Got what we needed. Got out of there. Didn't use a frame of it to show, but you know,
You know, it's one.
You gave it a crack.
I gave it a crack.
I made this documentary in Cambodia, and it was one of the hairiest docos.
I remember watching this.
I've
This was a
ever
hairy
made.
moment when I watched this show.
Was this with the Canon C300?
This was with a Canon C300,
Okay.
but not this moment. Was
Oh,
it? This whole
no.
moment never made it into the documentary.
Yeah.
Because the broadcaster was too afraid of the ramifications of what we'd filmed.
Yeah, right.
So the whole thing was about child sex trafficking and orphanage tourism in Cambodia. Heavy shit. And we got word that there was an organisation, there'd been a complaint against them because they were beating the shit out of their kids. And I mean hospitalised, beating the shit out of them. And so myself and the presenter tried for probably 2 or 3 weeks to get to try and get into this organisation and this location to talk to the people to see what we could sniff out. But we couldn't take cameras near it, but we wanted to film everything. So we rigged ourselves up with pen cams, watch cams. I had my mobile, of course, the good old iPhone that records everything, and I downloaded an app where you could be recording video, but if you flipped the phone, it was all black and you couldn't turn it on, even with a touch. Just to be sure. But anyway, I also wore a wire, right? And when we met with these two guys that was shifty as, and we were having an interview with them about, you know, their organisation and what was going on, and slowly trying to pull out a bit of truth from what we'd heard. And I remember it vividly that while we were starting to get into the in-depth stuff, there was this guy on my left-hand side who just kept staring at me like this, like at my chest where the wire was, which was a microphone connected to the phone. And I had a loose shirt, and I'm thinking, fuck, has this guy seen that I'm wearing a wire? Like, what is going on here? And the whole time that's going on over here, I'm having to smile at this guy over here who's telling me, yeah, we beat the kids because the closer they are to death, the more they're going to see God, was the line. I'll never fucking forget.
The more they're going to see
The
God.
more they're going to see God. And it makes me
So
fucking angry right now even thinking about it.
These
It's
guys
disgusting.
these were Caucasian. They were Australian dudes in Cambodia. They were Cambodian dudes.
Cambodian dudes.
Fuck.
And it was sickening because
Was
we
this
had
for
to-
all the orphanage tourism? Was this to get?
It was
I don't know. Is this what was the reasoning?
I can't.
Oh, okay. Was it really for God?
I don't want to. I can't talk too much about it because it was deliberately not aired for legal, like big legal reasons.
Right. Yeah.
But the episode was aired, wasn't it?
Yeah,
or
but
just
not
this
that
part,
scene.
This
None of what we did, and we spent 2 weeks with this organisation and at this location. None of it got aired, and we
Right.
were furious about it
Right.
because we got some good stuff.
So why did they say again that they couldn't air it? Just too heavy? Or are you getting
it
to
was too. It posed too many legal issues for the broadcaster.
Right.
And also because it's hard. It's hard to get into, but being able to substantiate what they were saying to what was actually happening, like all of our evidence that we got on tape wasn't there. So in some ways I get it.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong.
Right.
So it's gone too far down that legal.
Yeah,
side,
it's just
eh?
like sometimes you just have to leave it alone, and it's heartbreaking, especially when there's a big story to be told. Yeah, it was. I can remember getting home from that whole shoot, and for like 2 weeks I was a zombie.
Wow.
Literally, I was just
So you're talking to these dudes. Go back to that point. So
Yeah,
you're talking to
so
these dudes, and then you guys got
talking
eyes
to
on
this
you.
dude, and this guy's looking at me like this, and I'm thinking, what the fuck are you looking at me for? And I had no option but to just turn and just clock him and just stare at him. And you know, as producers, one of our greatest weapons and our greatest tricks, if we want somebody to talk and say something they don't want to say, is you let it go silent and you just lock eyes. And they tell you almost everything. 9 times out of 10, they tell you exactly what you want to hear, and you don't have to say a word. And I can remember turning and just staring at him, and it felt like an eternity because there was another conversation going over there. And it took him a while, but he was still looking at me like this, and then looking up, and then looking down, and then looking up. And eventually he shifted, and he looked back over here. And later I was thinking about it, and it's probably because I had this ornament around my neck because we just done an episode in Zimbabwe, and I had this. It was called a yami yami, or yaman yaman, depending on who you ask, which is this little river god. And I had that hanging around my neck from that trip. So I was thinking he was probably looking at that because if he'd seen the wire, we were fucked. We were so fucked. But it was scary, man. It was scary.
Yeah, full on.
Because you're there, you're lying through your teeth about who you are and what you're actually there for. You know they're doing dodgy shit.
Wired up.
If they find out that you're wired up, you're in Cambodia. What's going to happen?
Yeah. There's no, in those situations, there's no like easy escape plan. Yeah, you're there working, but it's not like, hey, these Black Hawk helicopters are going to come in.
Yeah.
If you go, he's got me, he's spied the wire, bring in the Black Hawks. No way. Like you're fucked. You're probably in a ditch shot at that point.
And you know that I had my very first ever boxing class just the other day. So that happened like 8 years ago.
Yes, mate.
I would not have been able to punch my way out of that one.
Correct.
No way.
Yeah, that was a full-on series, man. That was a good series that you made. Because what did you do in that series? There was that child.
See, now you're bringing linking the
Orphanage. I can talk
Orphanage.
about the show.
Yeah,
The show was head first. I just can't talk about exactly what
that happened in that
stuff was.
situation.
I just
Yeah.
can't. Yeah.
So it was head first, the show.
Yeah.
And there was the Cambodian orphanage
Yeah, we did a thing
Episode?
on porn addiction.
porn addiction.
Yep. We did a thing on controversial stem cell treatments.
Yep.
In India, we did a thing on steroid use and abuse, which was a good one, where I had a guy threaten to kill me if the what got sent out.
That was a really interesting one. That was the dudes that go to festivals and parties and they're
Yeah.
bodied up. They got some rigs on them and they're
Yeah.
just there to dance. And
Yeah, because we filmed this really
I have never
interesting-
been offered to go to
go to a festival and
Well,
dance.
actually, I got a letter from this organization called Noodle Alley wanting me to go back.
When will you return?
Yeah, and just
Yeah, that tall guy. Let him back.
It was
that
that.
the tall guy, the pointy nose. Let's get him back.
And then
In the croaky voice.
yeah, so that was heavy, that steroid one. But the best one was the rhino poaching in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Like, it was epic. And my favourite part of that was we got to live in Zimbabwe. I think it was for about a month or 6 weeks, and we lived with the rangers at a national park with the only remaining 6 black rhinos of Zimbabwe. And those rangers are trained by an ex-SAS Aussie guy to protect them. So we were living with them, and that just meant we were kind of part of the crew. Like what we were talking about before, right? Like you lead these different lives, and we were there for 5 or 6 weeks, something like that. And I can remember driving home, like back to camp one night, and I got to drive the Jeep. It was like this old piece of shit Jeep, and I just loved it because like the roof was kind of cut off it. It was an awful car. Never get registered here in Australia. And to get back to camp, you had to go down this kind of really steep gorge, cross over a river, come back up, and there's this really sharp turn up the top corner. And in the river, a month before we got there, a guy got attacked by a crocodile and lost his hand, right? One of the rangers. And so we're coming down
Is
here.
his name Hook?
It is now.
Captain Hook.
Coming down this creek, and we come back up, and I just see this flash of white, and I've got the rest of the crew and some of the rangers in the tray of the ute, and I see this flash of light of white in the headlights. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And then suddenly, as I come around, this big bull elephant just comes at us, and I hit the brakes and I throw it into reverse. Of course, the lights aren't working in the back, and I'm having to go like try and reverse fast because he's coming straight at us. And I'm screaming at the back of the tray, going, lights, fucking lights, lights. No one knows what's going on because they haven't seen it. But I know there's a cliff that drops off into the river where a guy just got taken by a crocodile.
Yeah.
You know, it's light, fucking what? And bang, back, we get back around. And as I've hit the brakes to see what happens, you just see this big bull come forward, have a look, bit of a sniff. As cliche as you'd like in a film, lets out a big trumpet and then pisses off into the bushes.
Wow.
It was just like, holy shit.
Wow.
Like, I
Did
can't
you change
just,
your pants?
Oh, I think I was just happy that everyone didn't think I was crazy. Because everyone was swearing back at me, going, like, what the fuck are you doing? What's going on? You're going to drive us off a cliff?
And anyone who hasn't seen an African elephant in the flesh, especially when you're in a car,
They're
like
big.
a car is nothing to this thing. Like that thing, you might be in a nice big truck and this big old Land Cruiser. That'll stop that thing
Oh,
up.
mate.
No trouble. That'll throw you off the cliff if it wants. They are big, big animals.
It was epic, eh? That's one of my favourite shoots I've ever done. And like black rhinos have a history of misbehaving. Like they're quite nervous and they jump around a bit. And, you know, keepers in Australia and around the world, and that they're always a little bit like, oh, be careful around the black rhinos. And I can remember on like our second or third day, around the main ranger hut, they had all these sort of big rocks like this, because the theory was the rhinos didn't like to stand on the rocks. So we got there on sunset, and we had a mum and a calf hanging around, and I'm like, sweet, I'll get the camera out, I'll go get some shots, and of course, me being me, go right to the edge of the rocks, because I'm like, I really want this shot. I want to get as close as I can. And then this little calf comes running straight over to me and stops, probably like as far away as what we are here now. And I'm just sitting there just really quiet. And then mum fucking charges at us. And I just stay, I'm going lower and lower. I'm sort of crouching down in a squat. And I can feel the rangers have come over to me and they're just grabbing me by the back of the collar, ready to reef me out of there. But I just stayed really still and just let this thing come, and it came right up, probably half the distance from us. Mum, sniff, sniff, sniff.
Half the distance from us, so they're like,
Fuck
a
yeah,
metre
half
away.
the
like, that's
difference.
like a
metre
metre away.
Mate,
You could-
I nearly wanted to put my hand out to pat it on the nose.
far
I really wanted to
out.
do it. It's one of my biggest regrets for not trying it,
Wow.
because it was just one of those
Wow.
moments where you
And
could
what,
feel.
you're standing behind a rock, so that's
I'm not standing behind anything. I'm crouched down like in a squat
Wow.
on the edge of these rocks. There's nothing
Wow.
between us, but there was just something about it. I don't know. I'm not hugely spiritual or religious, but you could just feel like it was actually going to be okay.
Yeah.
It was scary, but I'm like, if I just stay low and just let them do their thing and don't move and don't, we've done a fair bit of stuff with wildlife. We know not to give them something to react to.
Mm.
Like, as long as I don't give them something to react to, we're going to be okay.
Mm.
And but the nervous part was when I could feel Chelly Pelly was his name, the lead ranger, grabbing me by the scruff, ready to reef me. I was like, okay,
Wow.
this is actually kind of serious.
Wow.
But, mate, hands down, best 5-6 weeks trip of my
Wow.
life. Unreal.
Wow.
Do you find that with the old camera gives you a little bit of sense of, I don't know if you'd call it false sense of security, but it gives you a little bit of Dutch courage of some sort. Having that, holding that camera, you let a lot of things happen in front of you.
It
Yeah.
detaches
would
you
not-
from reality.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, sometimes it
Yeah,
does.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you have to pull yourself back in sometimes and go, oh, hang on. There's
That was
there's
actually
two people beating themselves up with a hammer here, and I'm watching it,
understanding. They're really
like,
relaxed.
and they could turn on me.
Yeah.
Like you forget sometimes that you have to.
Would you
pull
be
your shit-
standing there without a camera?
No,
No,
hell no.
that's-
It wouldn't be
you'd
that
be
close.
5 steps back.
But
at
you're
least.
not you're not
Yeah.
just there. The thing is that you're not just there on your own. You're not just, oh, I've got a camera, I'm walking the streets waiting for something shit to happen. You're there with the emergency services, or you're there with the rangers, or you're there with someone that there's some level of authority that gives you. So maybe it's not the camera that gives you that kind of false sense of security. Maybe it's the camera combined with being there with the rangers.
No, I reckon it's the camera.
The
I think it's
legitimacy.
just the
Yeah,
camera. mate. It's like a bar.
That's a
You know,
good-
when I
it's a
work-
good
when I work-
debate.
when I worked in the bar, right, serving
Keep
beer,
this lovely
simple
thing to your
serving
face,
beer.
my friend.
Yeah, serving beer.
You can
right?
move it too. You don't have
Yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. Serving beer. When I worked in the bar,
yeah.
you have this bar top, right? Which is that all right? Yeah, you have this little space between you. Everyone comes into the bar. They want to tell you everything. They'll tell you the whole life story there and then because you're just the barman. And I think because you are behind there, well, for me anyway, you could say anything. You could listen to anyone. You could tell them anything you wanted. Anyone. It didn't actually matter because you always had an escape and you had this little thing in front of you, that little bit of stainless steel, whatever the bar was, and you could always escape a really conversation. Sometimes someone comes and sits next to you. If you were on the other side of the bar, someone comes and sits next to you and starts telling you the life story, you'd run a mile. You'd be like, who's this crazy guy? Right? But when you're on the other side of the bar, you kind of listen because you sort of know you can bail at any stage.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to go stock the fridge, mate, or whatever, right? And I think the camera gives you the same thing. And also, I think when people are being filmed, it breaks down those social weirdness, things that you shouldn't do. Like you don't have to follow the etiquette. You can go cut straight to the chase and not feel like you're being like a weird social person. So you can be that weird guy at the bar who comes and tells you their life story out of nowhere. But if you've got a camera in your hand, it's okay. And that gives us a little bit of an in.
Yeah.
A really quick in.
Yeah,
So you
100%.
make, again, going back to those really intense relationships, you make a really intense relationship in, half
that.
the time
Yeah, man.
that you would in real life.
But we also, forget the camera, as producers, we, whether consciously or subconsciously, we learn how to construct those conversations to get what we need quicker than usual.
Yeah, right.
That's what we do. I did a shoot just probably a couple of weeks ago, where we ended up, it was only the second time I met this guy, and I knew, I can't talk about this one because it hasn't gone to air yet, but I knew that there was a reason for him having the problem that he had. It was a physical problem. Was something that had happened to him earlier. I just knew picking up on things that had been said, and so I poked him straight away while he's cooking a barbecue, and he straight away told me about how his dad used to kick the shit out of him as a kid to the point of nearly, killing him, and that if his mother had survived back then, I think she died of cancer, that he wouldn't have the condition that he had, and that, like, seriously, man, like, we're having that conversation while he's cooking chicken kebabs, and it was within 5 minutes of me pressing record, and I think it is the camera. I agree. That gives us that sense of bravado. It's because we separate ourselves from that. Like we get in this tunnel where everything's black. Occasionally you look out your peripheral just to make sure you're not missing shots over there or shots over there. But basically you're here and it separates you like that. But also, I don't know about you guys, but for me also with that, I just rarely hear about cameramen getting hurt or killed. You hear it occasionally, particularly with helicopters. But, I don't hear a lot of stories of it going that wrong. I think there's actually one mate of ours recently but he wasn't shooting, who really messed himself up on an ATV.
Yeah.
We won't go into details about that, but he wasn't shooting about it.
No. But we go to remote places and we do, especially with we don't do reality stuff. None of us here do reality stuff. We do documentaries that take us to remote places, and we do the more extreme kind of things because that's what we are all a little bit addicted to, or at least I know I'm addicted to. And so there's an inherent risk with just going to that place. If you say, hey, see you next week, you're going to the middle of Australia, the most remotest point we can get you to, don't worry about filming. You just getting there there's risk associated in that, whether that's the flight or it's the truck or the hiking or whatever you have to do to get to that place. There's a risk associated with that. And then maybe there's a huge risk once you pull that camera out and you're trying to catch a snake in the middle of nowhere or jump on a crocodile in the middle of nowhere.
Or try and film a Manta Ray in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. There's
Oh, yeah.
You know that story.
I know that story. Yeah,
Jeez,
that was a good story.
That was
That was a great story.
That was
I like
an
that one.
oldie.
It's one of the first things you and I did when we first started working in TV together.
Yeah, we did, and that's still one of my all-time favorite shows. So Colin and I did an adventure fishing show, and everyone in this room, even Az has done a couple of episodes on it as well. So it was an adventure fishing show, Fox Sports.
2 episodes and 2 breakdowns, 2 for 2.
Yeah, Az has got some stories on this one too. The boat broke down twice, one with a big storm coming. So
sensational.
It was. We did 6 seasons of this, so there was 8 seasons altogether. We didn't do the first 2 seasons, but then we came on and did the next 6 seasons. So this was fishing, all around the world, doing different things. Like there was a story where I was going to segue off your elephant story before, where we were fly fishing in backcountry Alaska, and there was a bear in front of me where Sieh is, and a bear behind me where the wall is, and we're standing there.
That close.
That close.
That's bear sandwich.
It was a bear
You were the
sandwich.
meat and the bear
So it
sandwich.
was a meat and the bear sandwich. These were big bears, and we were in the middle of nowhere. But luckily, there were so many salmon around that they weren't
I didn't care.
phased about me. They could eat fish eggs. That's all they had to eat. It was just fish eggs.
Yeah, right.
They didn't want some scrawny white guy.
6 foot tall one.
Yeah, 6'4", mate.
I know a few people in Thailand that are like a scrawny white guy.
Yeah, they do. Delicious scrawny white guy. But so we did this show for
Alaska, right.
So I won't go into the whole Alaska story now, even though it's one of my favorites. We did 6 years of this show, traveling all around the world. Colin and I got this contract very early on in our careers. We're in our early 20s. We got this. It was really exciting. First of all, I know when we all did it, it was just kind of one-man band. You'd go with the fishermen, you'd go to whatever part of the world you go into, you film it. When we first started, the first season or 2, it was a 2-man gig. So Colin and I got this contract, one of the very first, if not the first contract we got to make a documentary or a series, an adventure series. And one of the greatest episodes that we did, or a couple of episodes that we did, we went to the top of Cape York, which is the tip of Australia. which is really remote for people that don't know how remote it is. It's like swamp and bushland and crocodiles and sharks and just jellyfish, and it's just beautiful country too. Like it is rugged, remote.
It's wild.
Wild. Like I'm so glad so much of it is protected. A lot of it isn't as well, but it is a beautiful country. So the point of Australia, up the top, down that western cape, which is just the western side of the cape, which is just all remote. Couple of little towns along the way, but there's not a bitumen road going there. It's all very, very remote. So we did 2 weeks. Was it 2 weeks or 10 days? We went down the west side on a mothership on a big boat where we'd fish off.
What was the boat called? You remember?
No, it was with a guy called Greg
Bethune.
But shit, I don't know what his boat was called. But it was out of Sieh, which is kind of there's a little kind of port town right at the top.
Right at the tip. If you're going to get to the Torres Strait, you're going out of there.
Yeah. So you're closer to Papua New Guinea than any other Australian town or anything like that. Way closer to Papua New Guinea. So we were there, and so we had 10 days or 2 weeks to take this mothership fishing and stoffing off in the rivers, and it was a big, beautiful ship. And we had a few little tenders off the back where we would go off and fish in the little tenders for the day and then catch up to the main boat. We'd pull into a river. So we did one episode fishing out of the main boat and one episode where we were in a jet ski, and the guy was actually filming racing down the beach on a jet ski because you could cover so much more ground and find the fish, and then fishing off the back of the jet ski, and it was an amazing experience.
Unreal.
But I'll let you take over the story, mate, because I know we were there, and you got owned by by a giant manta ray, and I've since talked to some manta ray experts who are very interested if we can track down that footage of that manta ray feeding.
Mate, I'd love to, but there's a reason why it doesn't exist anymore, which we'll talk about. But my memory of it was that we were filming a couple of manta rays feeding on jelly prawns.
Yeah.
And they were doing somersaults.
Morning, it was kind of early morning, flat calm ocean, on a little fishing boat. We're just cruising along in 2 meters of water, looking for fish, schools of fish, different things to cast out. And then we spotted these giant manta rays, which were, as you said, feeding on jelly prawns.
Yeah.
And so they were...
And so for people that may not have seen a manta ray or have the concept of that, these things can be, I think, 4 to 5 meters wide and 1.5 to 2 tons in weight.
This is something for Az to look up. Az, have a look.
Yes.
This is
why he's here.
This is why he's here. Az, my man.
I'm going to say 4 to 5 meter wingspan. I'm going 4 to 5 meter wingspan, and I'm going 1.5 to 2 tons.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a big fish.
Az will let me know.
That's like the size of an elephant. So this is
That's bigger than the Corolla. That's heavier than the Corolla.
That's heavier than your Toyota Corolla.
Mate, they are huge. And the thing,
you want giant mantas too.
And the thing is, the reason fishermen like them is because you get these other big fish that hover with them for protection and cover. So you can catch big cobia, big trevally. And so what they'll do is they'll flick lures at them in the hope of trying to get one of these other big fish to hook on. But they're feeding on this big school of jelly prawns. What do we got in terms of weight and size here?
The biggest one recorded 1,000 kilos.
There you go, a ton.
No, hang on. It says they're large adults, 1,600 kilos, so 1.5 ton.
I'm reading here. What's the largest manta ray? That's the largest one caught.
Okay.
5 to 7 meters.
5 to 7 meter wingspan. Fucking huge.
That's big.
That's massive.
That's big.
Yeah, they're big. So I should know this because for Crikey, it's the Irwins. Last year we did a manta rays episode. I think there's 2 types of manta rays, and there's the giant ocean manta ray is the one that we're talking about, which is the elephant of the sea.
So they were doing these somersaults, and I was on the bow of the boat, and it was an 18-foot long boat.
Sorry, I'll interrupt you there.
That's right.
Hit me.
7 meters.
7 meters wide.
Wingspan, weighing up to 3,000 kilos.
There you go.
3,000 kilos.
That's
How many
that's a
Corollas
troopy.
is that?
That's a troopy. That's heavier than a
That's a troop
troopy.
carrier.
That's heavier than a troopy.
So look, I'm not
That's
going
a fully laden troopy.
I'm not going to say these mantas were that big, but
I mean,
I
there's
reckon
2
they were
types,
4 to 5. They were
That's
4 to 5 meter wide. They were big, but not
massive.
that big.
Yeah.
They were massive.
Right, so they're feeding on these jelly prawns. I'm on the bow of the boat, and there's a little stool, so you're not like you've probably got your shins going over the side of the boat, right? Like anyway, so I'm filming them as they're doing this, and I can remember following this one as he's doing this somersault, and I'm following him down like this, and then I can remember seeing his eye, like if that's your screen, his eye would have been like that big. That's how close he was to me. But then I realised he's under my feet. Next thing I know, the boat's getting pushed that way. I've got a 15-kilo camera on my shoulder, and I'm falling in the water that way. And this is a spot where the day before we couldn't land a fish because all the bull sharks were just ripping them apart.
Tiger sharks, it was
and
all
tigers,
tiger
everything.
Shark. Yeah. You look down through the water column beneath us, and there was just sharks, like the classic. They were all circling in a kind of school
sort of around your feet.
Well, yeah, just below the
Mate.
boat, like as far as you could see, there was layers on layers and layers of shark.
There's a great shark story to come out of this too, actually,
yeah.
on this same boat. And all I remember is just hitting the water, and I'm fully clothed because, we're it's not a nude fishing show.
Wasn't Noodle Alley.
It wasn't Noodle Alley. And I can remember hitting the water, and I looked up, and I've still got the camera, and I'm looking up, and I was shocked at how deep I was. Like, I literally just went in and sank. And so I'm pushing the camera up to try and save the camera. And then someone grabs the camera out, and I'm pushing myself up to get out. And next thing I know, I don't know whether it was you or Micah or who, I can't remember, Shannon, who we were with. But someone grabbed me by my belt on my pants and reefed me into the boat. Because, again, you're in croc country, jellyfish, and we couldn't land a fish because there were sharks everywhere.
Just the power. Remember, the thing that I remember is the power of that animal. We weren't in a real stable boat. We were in one of those, I think they're called long boats, which are
long and skinny.
They're long and skinny boats that a lot of the islands use up that way, which is the easiest boat to get for the tender to get up that way. They don't have these nice kind of flat fishing boats, so they're the traditional boat of the kind of area. So they're really unstable, but they're really heavy. They're thick kind of timber boats. And so for this thing to pick it up and literally move a boat, which is probably 5 or 6 meters long, probably even longer, pick it up and throw it 10 meters.
It was like
in
a
just
learning
one flick. Like one flick of its thing, because it flipped over, went upside down, and it must have gone under the boat. And then realised,
seeing the good-looking Cole.
Gone. Here's this goofy little guy filming me, and then bam, hits us. We go flying. I just remember because Cole, he stayed still. Like we went up
like
in
a
the
Looney
air.
Tunes episode, like Wile E. Coyote going off the cliff, and then suddenly,
and the boat went flying, and you just stayed in there, and then just went straight down. And we were 5 meters away. We had to kind of get over to you, drag you in. That was intense. And then after that, we had to.
Well, the camera was screwed, so that's why we don't have any
screwed.
footage. You can tell your Manta Ray mates, sorry.
No, but we filmed. I remember the morning before we filmed them feeding as well, but from a little bit of a distance. I think we were catching fish at the time, but I know there's footage from the day before that I'd love to track down.
That'll be in your storage shed, mate.
Yeah.
Not in mine.
I'm not going
in one of those shoe boxes.
But because we were so remote, and it cost a lot of money to go on these charter boats. It cost a lot of money to go on these charter boats, so we had to fly a helicopter, get a helicopter to fly us another camera out there the next morning to keep filming. And I can remember saying to the guy, well, this has cost us so much money, might as well just give us 30 minutes in the air to get a few aerials of the boat, of the landscape, et cetera, et cetera. And I can remember being up in the chopper filming, and every 200-300 metres, 15-foot tiger shark. There's a couple of bull sharks. There's a crocodile. Oh, yeah, sweet. And then we did that hike. We did that hike to that waterfall, remember?
Yeah.
And we were going to try and catch some tarpon or something up.
Hang on, I'm gonna jump in here because Greg Bethune he's a legend, old sea dog guy.
I know
right?
what you're going to say.
So
this is the captain, huh?
he's the captain of the
ship.
boat. He's a legendary old kind of sea dog. Runs the boat, goes to, takes the boat through remote areas of PNG. You get on his boat and you respect the man, So. And he's like this old salty sea dog,
It's crusty and leathery.
Leather skin, tough guy. Just always has got the Hawaiian shirt kind of half open, the board shorts, no shoes on, real tough. So he's taken us to this waterfall, right? Here's a couple of kind of city kids coming out, just pretending we're tough like the captain. We get out, and it's you know how tough that country is up there. It's dry, it's hot, there's snakes, there's spiders, there's dry grass, and it's you wouldn't survive.
Everything's
long.
sharp.
Everything's sharp. So we're there. Yeah, everything's really sharp. And so we go, and he's hiking us to this beautiful waterfall that he knows. So everyone else is putting on their hiking boots. Cole turns to me and goes, "Greg's got no shoes on. I'm not wearing shoes."
How it rolls there.
Yeah.
If Greg didn't wear pants, I wouldn't have had pants either.
So Cole decided not
Did
to
he?
wear
Well-
shoes. And I reckon it was about 2 or 3 minutes into this couple K hike where Cole started complaining that everything was sharp
Like it was
and
sharp.
hot, and his feet were getting sliced.
man.
And Greggy boy, he's 100 meters ahead of us. We're struggling to keep up with him on a good day, but here's old Cole, no shoes, doing the old dance of shame for like 2 Ks to the
On
bloody
the hot rocks.
on the
Oh,
hot
yeah.
rocks on the sharp thing. Just because the captain's got no shoes on doesn't mean the 25-year-old guy.
Well, I do have a history of biting off a little bit more than I could chew,
Correct.
and then staying with it to prove a point, no matter how painful it is.
Yeah, you stuck with it.
Do have a history.
She is going for a slash, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first slash.
Well, first slash.
First slash during the podcast. Hey, here he is.
Oh, first slash. We should ring a bell or something.
Yeah, we should have
Got a round of applause.
hit the applause button, as.
I don't know which one it is. I think
Uh,
No,
So-
can you get the sound of somebody
that
taking
it?
a tinkle?
Yeah. Az has got an applause button there.
It's just like my photo button.
Yeah, it's just on the bottom. Instead, his comes up when he says it.
Ah,
When
yeah.
when
Mine
hits
won't
it.
come up.
Yeah.
Manta Rays come up. Are you going to show?
Yeah, we
Oh,
might.
really
We
there?
might. Hey, look, I
There
know
they
we've
are.
got a camera on that, but there were 2 types. So I haven't talked to her yet, but a good friend of mine. So tomorrow I got Peter Gash coming on, who's an absolute legend from Lady Elliot. But a lady I met at Lady Elliot, Kathy Townsend, who's kind of the head authority on Manta Rays. I'm going to get her on one day because she is a fascinating lady. And we went over there and we filmed an episode of Crocky It's the Irwins with her. And she was such a wealth of knowledge and has put in a lifetime's work. You know all these researchers. They put in a lifetime
Mate,
work.
don't they?
and
For no
it's-
reward, really.
for no reward. Like I kind of feel bad sometimes when I go to these research stations and they are the most genuine, beautiful people that are working on the smell of an oily rag, that are sacrificing everything. And it's cool that we can go and tell their story, and that's great. But I don't feel like I'm giving enough when I go to these research stations and do these things with them. I really don't. Like they have given so much, and I'm kind of jump on the bandwagon for a couple of days and go, yeah, this is the greatest research, and it is. It genuinely fascinates me when I go. Whatever we're researching, it genuinely gets me excited. But I'm excited for 4 days, and I don't know if I get that excited because I know I've only got 4 days of it. But these people put their lives into.
No, they're
studying.
incredible people. It takes a very special person to be able to do that stuff.
Mate.
The shark guys I'm working with are a classic example of that. These guys, their heart and soul, they sacrifice so much of their lives to find out information to help us and to help sharks. And that's just one example. There's thousands of them in Australia alone. So, it's...
But climate change doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't
Yeah,
exist.
true. Has good point.
I think the big, because I sometimes find myself wishing that I was still working in the wildlife field.
Yep.
Like you and I both had a background working at a zoo and working in a national park, and I don't know. Like the thing that I always say is that how can I best apply my skills, and this is in general. How can I best apply my skills to maximise what you guys are doing? And it's not to go and do a science degree, or it's not to go and help, do your research. It's to tell your story the best way I can and get it to as many people as I possibly can so they can see it and potentially be inspired by it.
It is really important. See, don't be shy, mate. There's plenty of wine. I'm glad you guys didn't have any extra wine, but there's plenty there, all right? That's a different drop.
I am going to have a bit more of that.
But there's all those drinks down there too. Feel free to get stuck into those. I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that?
Talking about science and research and telling
Yeah,
stories.
it's really important that like whenever, and it's part of the reason why I'm doing this. Like we're sitting in a room having a chat at the moment, because when you can share a story, you share knowledge, and when you share knowledge, you give people value. And if you give people value, it improves their lives. Now, like the stories that we told tonight, it could give people value, and that value might be as simple as being entertained. And that's still value. That improves their life. It might be that they get educated in some way that improves their life. They're like, oh, cool. That's cool about TV, or that's cool about Thailand. I'm going to go find that alley.
The alley. Noodle.
Yeah.
Alley.
Or it could be that they get motivated. Like I did when I read Jocko's book. I'm just like, yeah, I'm fucking motivated now. So telling stories like we're doing right now, and like I'm hoping to do with podcasts with a lot of different people that I meet, because we get to meet so many people with what we do, is sharing knowledge and giving value. And that's really important. So I do get that when I go to people and I entrench myself in their lives. Like I kind of want to get on board, but I understand that my job's really important too, of telling their story and getting their story out, whether that's to people like my mum and grandma who are going to watch this, or it's
Sandy's going to watch this?
yeah, she
Sandy!
is. Hey.
I haven't seen you in years.
Or or it's 30, 40 million people that watch some of our shows and do some things like that. It's just important to get those messages out. And I think with this, it gives me that value too. Like hearing your guys' stories and hearing everyone's stories that's going to sit across from me gives me value. Just like it gives the audience that value, it gives me value as well. So, it's part of the reason why we do it, and the part of the reason why I'm going down this path as well, is to hopefully share a little bit of that value, both with the audience and both with me. And that's it. That's my spiel.
That was a
Deep,
good spiel.
man.
It's a good
Yeah.
spiel.
You're looking valuable right now, my friend.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
But not just that. There's like I've said to both of you before, this is that it's important for me, communication. And I was saying this with Az when we were having burgers before the podcast. It was communication is the most powerful tool and skill anyone has in their life to manipulate and influence the world around them. And whether that is a crying baby just trying to get attention, or a politician trying to get attention, or someone trying to pick up a girl, or someone just trying to have a good day, communication is the number one thing they can do to get success in that, or manipulate the situation to better their circumstances, or just improve the world around them. So
isn't that the main thing that evolved us from the old monkeys? Communication?
Yeah, probably.
Speech?
Probably.
Working
Speech
in tax, all that kind of hoo-ha?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of different things, but it's one of the huge things that we can communicate and use our words instead of just beating each other, or use some writing to influence people. And we've all been influenced by people, whether that's watching David Attenborough on TV, or reading a really interesting book, or hearing a speech, or so we all get influenced by that communication. So for me, the other big thing is to improve my communications. This is like me going to the gym. That's why I'm doing it. Like this is me doing my reps to have deeper, more insightful conversations, use some more critical thinking, just so I can improve those skills, which I use so often in work. Obviously we do. We go and meet people, we have conversations, all that kind of stuff. But to keep working on those skills, keep honing those skills, it's only going to improve my life and improve my world. And that's the second part of my speech.
So, Steve, what would be the hardest question someone could ask you to improve? Like, where would you feel like, okay, we all do TV, we all ask people, we all talk, but at some point, there's some things which always feel uncomfortable to talk about, or maybe not uncomfortable to talk about, but uncomfortable to sort of go there, or sometimes you have to argue your point, but you might feel, maybe this is not the talk for everyone else.
I think just talking, what this is doing too, which makes me uncomfortable, is putting everything out, because there's an open platform where everyone can watch, and everything I say and do. Usually I'm the guy behind the camera. No, they cut out my voice. No one wants to hear my voice. Understandable.
I want to hear your voice too.
Thank you, mate. But it gets cut out. And so I'm never put at the forefront to get criticised or judged or be held accountable in any of the stuff that I make. I make stuff that millions of people watch all around the world, and I'm never accountable for anything past. No one watches the credits and go, oh, look, there's that guy's name. Oh, cool, yeah, I'll talk to him about why he asked that question and got that answer. So in a roundabout way, there's no one question. There's a whole stream of questions, but because I'm saying them now on an open platform, it makes me accountable, and hopefully that gets me to a point where the only way that I can survive that is to be as truthful and authentic as I can be. Otherwise, I'm going to get caught up. So any question where I'm fully accountable, it's out there for everyone to see, is a difficult question. Well, it's not a difficult question, but it's a
Exposing question. Exposing, you'll be exposing yourself by answering it.
I'm exposing myself to a little bit, and I give some more thought to it, because if it was me and you and Cole sitting around and Az sitting around in a room and I got asked a question, I could say some bullshit answer that I'm not really accountable to, because you guys will forget it in a little while, or you might take it to heart, but in a week we'll move on. But this makes me a little bit more accountable. So this makes me think about it a little bit more. And that's something interesting to me.
I think you're more susceptible to it too, mate, because you have always held me accountable and other people around you accountable when they're doing things that sit outside, whether it's your moral compass or what we want to be, but then we have a weak moment too. And you're a great friend because of it, because you've held me accountable over numerous things in our friendship.
Yeah, but you've been a dick. You've been a real arsehole a lot of the time.
My favourite one was when we must have been 19, and I was super, super drunk coming back from a party. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Is this when you threw the can out the window?
It's when I threw the can out the window. I don't even know why I did it. I don't throw cans out the windows, but I was.
So
just
you were 19 and you.
I was 19. I was being a dick. I was a dickhead 19-year-old. I was a dickhead 19 to 22-year-old probably. And you're like, fucking, what are you doing that for? What are you talking about? Don't fucking throw the can out the window. Get out and get it. Oh, piss off, Steve. No, fucking seriously, get out of the fucking car and you get that can. Oh, shit, sorry, mate. It scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I was in trouble.
Yeah, correct.
It's a good thing, mate. Like, it's good.
Yeah. Coming
But
from
I wouldn't,
Bundaberg,
straight
like
from
EPA
the
from Bundaberg.
Bundaberg.
I did that once. I had a vendetta when I was living in the Whitsundays, because I used to catch the bus to work and go and work on the Great Barrier Reef all day. And every morning I'd stand at this bus stop and there was a bin right there, and this dude would smoke his darts and throw them on the ground and stamp on them. And I used to see it every day, and then one day I just snapped. It was like, right, I'm going to say something. And I'm going to say something to anyone that I see doing it for the next, week.
Mm.
And so I went on this vendetta of everyone, even to the point where I'd pull up next to people that were throwing them out the window and go, mate, get out. And and I did it. And few people arced up, and as soon as you pull him up, as soon as I pulled him up, he goes, oh, yeah, no. I was like, there's a bin right there, mate, within arm's reach.
When you look
and we
out
live
there,
on the doorstep of the Great Barrier
There's the Great Barrier Reef, and you're just throwing a durry in the gutter. Yeah, mate, where do you think that's
I
going to
get it
end
if you're
up?
I don't know, you're living in Canberra or somewhere less close to the ocean.
But he'll be working in some kind of tourist job.
Yeah, totally.
That come out to the reef tours.
Everyone worked in tourism to a certain extent there.
Exactly. So. If you're not, something in that town is all to do with tourism, with the reef.
So I think a lot of us feel that way sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, me too, and I'm so against it as well. It was just my can throws are over me. It was like one moment. I'll never do it again out of fear of this bloke grabbing me by the neck and throwing me out the van
first
window.
and last can ever thrown.
Yeah, that's it. Saving the world.
Could have killed someone, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, we were parked. I was just being a little turd. Where you meant to go, no, Cole, you're all right.
No. Everyone just went quiet.
Everyone just goes,
yeah. Glad those days are over.
You're a dickhead.
I didn't know you back then. So you're all right, man.
Oh, shit.
Oh, legendary fellas.
I'm going to go take slash number 2.
Oh,
Slash.
that's good. We can
Seals
talk
are
about it. We
breaking.
can talk about it.
Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah, talk about it now.
Slash number 2.
When did you go for the first one?
No, you went for the first one.
Ah, okay.
You were the
okay. I thought I
first, my
missed something.
friend.
Yeah.
So you've got to try this one too, Sieh.
Yeah.
This is a different one.
All right.
yeah.
So let me clean the
This is a different one. It's a lot lighter. Here we go.
That was delicious, the first one, mate.
Yeah, man, I'm really happy. But where are we now? 2019, 2018. Apparently, I haven't tried any. I've tried a little bit, but it was only in the barrel for a couple of months. But the winemaker tells me it is he said it was the best wine he's ever made.
I'll put my order in for Christmas.
Yeah, mate. Well,
Is this naturally fermented or is it
the
you've
2018 is naturally fermented.
That's why it tastes like vinegar.
Wild. No, that's the 2016. That's the
No.
vinegar factor. Again, I'm never there. Like it's like, hey, Steve, are you ever showing up? No, I'm not. I'm not showing up.
Here's a check.
Yeah, I don't think I've even paid the check. I just get the wine.
Shareholders peaks.
I am the
Perks,
worst.
sorry.
I am the worst contributor to this. All right.
Thinking
So
of wine.
It's a lot different, It's a lot different. It's a lot lighter.
This looks...
And it's kind of like a slight sorry, man. I just poured a glass for Az, who is driving home after this.
The other one was 1,000 times better.
1,000. Oh, this means this one's
okay. So
the other way
what
to
year
say,
are we going to here?
the other way to say that is this one's 1,000 times shit. See, you're not impressed. This could be a shit bottle. This could be
Yeah. No, this is that grape juice that's gone off, isn't it?
It's fizzy.
Yeah, it's definitely different. It's not that strong red.
That last one was delicious, mate. I only had
So
a
your
tiny little
verdict?
bit.
I think this is that modern taste, isn't it?
Yeah. It's
It's the naturally
you both
fermented
give me,
stuff.
You've
Yeah.
both given me the eyes. Like, that's shit. That's shit.
This is more for a young person. Yeah, a lot more acidic.
Yeah, but that is a classic McLaren Vale red, like rich, deep flavors. Like it's a classic. This is all right.
I don't know.
Okay, cool. Well, fuck you guys. Next time you make a wine and bring it in, I'm going to crucify us. Absolutely crucify us.
One thing I was thinking about while I was taking a slash
Okay, cool.
is what
It's Noodle Alley. Was it Noodle Alley? Did you take it back to Noodle Alley?
maybe. No, it was more about like, because I think, part of this thing that we're chatting about, right, is to talk about conversations and stories about our work in TV. What do you think for the average punter out there that doesn't understand a lot about TV or the process of being made or anything like that? Like, what are the things that you think are interesting for them to know in terms of that process that they would be kind of like, wow, I had no idea that was the way that was done, or I had no idea that was part of the job, or because it is hard at parties.
I think about editing then, wouldn't it?
The ratio of vision shot to what they see.
Yeah, no, that's
is pretty interesting. Everyone, like you always tell people, I shot 2 hours for 4 minutes of TV, and they're like, what?
Yeah, that's a really good one. Like, so the process is, especially again, we're not talking about reality, we're talking about documentaries, and some, there's a scale. I guess there's reality and there's pure documentary. I'm burping from drinking too much of this fizzy shit wine. Thanks, guys. Red wine's meant to be fizzy. So there's a scale. Reality at one end, pure documentary at the other. And, our shows, all our shows that we make are kind of down their documentary kind of end. So that's the first thing to say. And then, so from what we do there, we go in, we embed ourselves, and that might be for a week, it might be for a year. We try and get in there and try and assimilate into that whatever we're covering as much as we can, to become part of that team, to become part of that. And like as just said, is that we might shoot for a year straight. We're only making 6 1-hour episodes. So that's a year of footage. That might be hundreds of thousands of hours of footage for 6 hours of airtime. And I think I don't know if that's someone at home that needs to know that, but the people that we film with, that's the first thing we tell them. Like we just did an amazing series that we're not allowed to talk about yet with the emergency services, where we film with them day and night, and their biggest fear is in those moments when they're sitting around having a coffee talking shit, and we're still filming, that's going to get used, but it gets so much of it gets cut down. Like we'll film all day, and we might only get out of that day 4 minutes. If it's a good day, if you walk away with 4 minutes and 14 hours of filming, you go, damn, that was good. That was a really good day. But I don't know if there's anything. I don't know. What do you think? Is there anything else that stands out that's different that the public would need to know?
I don't know. As you say, they need to know. It's just an interesting one. We're talking about all these stories and what we do and the process a lot, but then the emotion side comes into it as well, because we're all people trying to live lives in the middle of it all as well. Similarly, one of the things that always shocks people when I talk to them is that an average 1 hour episode of shows that I make will take 6 or 8 weeks to edit. And that's with 2 people in the room, plus edit assists out getting all the footage in, plus an executive producer looking over it, plus a series producer.
There's a lot of craft that goes into it. It's not just...
Oh, it's huge.
We've just gone out to Bill's factory and filmed Bill for a week, and there's your story. There's craft to tell a good story.
And that's always the interesting thing too. There's a big misconception, I think, in TV now, that there's a lot of money in TV, and there's really not. There might have been back in the 80s, in the heyday. It just costs a lot of money to make TV, because you think about 1 hour to edit, let's say over 8 weeks, you've got 6 to 10 people that are employed through that time to get that to a level that's acceptable by a broadcaster and by the people who run the company. And then once you've got it to that level, then you need to pay for color grade, you need to pay for an audio mix, you need to pay for graphics online, you need to pay for PPS scripts to get done and sent out, you need to pay for legals to look over it all. Like that, the process is huge. And I think that's, I don't know, it's just one of those things that, similar to you, like talk a lot about that to people, not to scare them or anything, just to give them a bit of context as to why things take as long as they do and why things cost as much as they do.
Maybe it's time we move to Nigeria.
Is there any backing behind that comment?
One film a day, mate.
What do you mean one film
feature
a day?
film a day.
Really?
Yeah, I think they're pumping. There was some story they were pumping out features one a day.
One feature film a day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Crazy.
They were obviously
you spend 1 day, high quality, really high quality, big market, people loved them. But anyway, but I think the editing, that backroom stuff is always a big thing. I don't think anyone really kind of can fathom the amount of time. Like it just seems like, to someone who's not in the industry, I think it always seems like a big waste of time or something. They kind of, someone says, oh, you can come around, you film this, just film for a couple of hours, and then you just give me something that's 5 minutes. And to them, they just assume you will go and cut it. But I think I had the same view of editing, I think at one stage as well, where I thought, oh yeah, I'll film and then I'll edit it and it'll be really easy. You know, cutting it down, it would be just basic. It was just a really bizarre concept that it could take time to do that. I remember a moment in my life when that was a strange concept.
Well, there's a saying, right? There's a classic saying in TV and film that you actually make 3 films or 3 TV shows when you work. You make the one in your head before you start filming, your pre-production. You make one while you're shooting, which is your production. And then you make one in post-production. But it's the one in post-production that's actually the one that everyone sees. Obviously you've got all the elements up front that led to that point. But, it's a full-blown process, man. Like, I've done so much post in the last 6 to 8 years as well. And it's really, it's an interesting process. And I can remember the first film I ever made, you remember this, because I was talking about it when I got a job at Totally Wild. Sort of come out of being a park ranger to go and write scripts for Totally Wild. And I was really excited and enthusiastic, and I decided I'm going to go make a 1-hour documentary in India of me flying my paraglider around the Himalayas, which was, fuck, it was a learning process, eh? Like, I took a cameraman with me from Channel 10, and we went for 3 weeks and filmed and came back. And I remember when coming back looking for somebody to edit the thing for me, and people wanted to charge me 15 grand, 20 grand to edit this film for me. And I remember going, well, fuck that. I can't afford that. I'm like 22, 23. I've just paid for a cameraman to go with me to India. I got no money. And I thought, stuff it, I'll go and buy an edit suite and I'll cut it myself. And over a year it took me to cut. So that 15 grand was looking like a pretty sweet deal by that point. I realised how shit I was in the field, all these mistakes that I'd made, pumped out an absolute dog shit documentary. It was good for what it was, but it was shit. But got it done. Got the process done, and then was able to build on that and be better next time around.
But that's with everything. Like, I think that was such. I remember you going through that and just doing it. The fact that you just did it made you who you are today. It really did. It made you. It opened up all those other crazy stories that we've heard tonight. Everything stemmed from you making that decision to just fucking do it. Like, if you hadn't have done it, if you sat there and thought about it for another year and didn't do it, we wouldn't be sitting across from each other telling stories about all the crazy adventures you'd gone on because you didn't take the first step.
I'm just glad I finished it.
Again, another one that never, you put over a year into making that documentary.
Yeah.
About. And there was some pretty cool stuff. You paraglided around the Himalayas in India. You're 22 years old. It was an epic adventure, an epic story. You put all this work into it. Never saw the light of day.
Yep.
But you got so much out of it.
Yeah.
That was the thing. You
can show your kids.
You can show your kids.
Yeah, Hazard will love it.
Yeah.
Except if he goes and does something like that.
Oh, no, he's not allowed to go paragliding. He's not allowed to go paragliding. No way.
It's an epic
He's not
epic
to
home
leave
movie.
the front gate.
Yeah, it's probably the best home movie. Best home movie you're going to see.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, talking about funny stories, just when we were there, I remember, because we went with a group of other pilots, and these other pilots one night, we were camping at the base of the Himalayas. They decided to go off on, I can't remember what they were doing, but they went off the camp to go up, probably camp up another mountain somewhere. And so Luke and I hung back because we're like, nah, stuff that.
Luke's the cameraman.
Luke's the cameraman I took from, who was working at Channel 10 at the time. And so we hung back, and we're in these tents, and they were kind of like those permanent tents that get set up for like in a hotel. And I can remember waking up at night hearing this scratching at the side of the tent. And I was freaking the hell out because I may have had 1 or 2 cones before we went to bed.
It's a Yeti.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was freaking out. And there was a scratching happening. I woke up and I'm hearing it. And you know how you just freeze in bed and your ears prick up and you're listening, you're going, what is that? Is that actually something going on? I don't know.
It was a possum.
I'm greening out. It's fucked up. Anyway, so I shut my eyes, and then next minute I look over at Luke, who's sleeping over there, and I'm watching him. I can still hear the scratching. And then, you know how the tents have the window, like the shade thing? I saw this window open up perfectly like that and then close. And I was just I felt sick. And then I watched, it was a classic horror movie. This guy walk around silhouetted against the light, walk around the front of the tent, and then reach up and grab the zipper, and then it's just really slow going like that. And I'm half baked.
You're fully baked, mate.
Yeah, I'm probably fully
I
baked.
remember smoking joints with you back in the day. And there was, it didn't take a lot.
There was no half
dose.
half
The
dose.
tank was full. The tank was
I
empty.
didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this and I'm going, Luke, because it's closer to him than it is to me. And as it's got halfway down, I've just in my head gone, fuck it, I need to do something. So I've just jumped up out of bed and run at the tent going, like that. And then Luke's got up going, what's going on? What's going on? Someone's breaking into our tent. Someone's going, no, you just stoned. Get back to bed. No, seriously, someone's breaking into our tent. And I don't know why, but I chased this fucker for about 1 kilometre.
Yeah.
I chased him. And as I'm running past the tent, I saw all the other tents where all the other pilots had shit ripped out from underneath them. Like there were clothes everywhere and stuff everywhere. We had like 50, 60 grand worth of camera gear there.
Jeez.
And then while I'm chasing this guy, like, into the middle of nowhere, it's just suddenly dawned on me, why am I chasing this guy in the middle of nowhere?
What I'm going to do with him when I catch him?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
seriously? What if he's got a knife? What if he's got a mate? What if he's got some weird giant cow that's going to bloody impale me? So I walk back, and Luke's just like, dude, you're so out of it, you trip. And I'm like, no, come and have a look at this. And I showed him all the other tents with stuff ripped out. I can remember his face. It was just like, oh, shit. Fuck. Anyway.
Yeah, intense, man.
It's full on, eh?
Yeah.
Intense, good one.
Well, that wasn't
Intense.
a I'm all claim it as. Woo!
Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah.
That was the first and
Stay in
last time
school.
Cole
Stay
did
in school.
drugs, and he realised they were no good for him.
Yeah, no good.
So, anyway, gentlemen, I guess we've got to pull the pin sometime, but that is the first episode of the podcast done. Thank you very much for joining me. It has been an absolute pleasure. You guys are absolute legends. I know you're working on some cool projects at the moment. We've just finished a cool project that'll be coming out soon. Crikey, it's the Owens is on air at the moment. Just give that a bit of a plug.
Nice one.
You know, it's all happening though. But thank you, fellas. I appreciate you.
It was a pleasure.
You guys are legends. Thank you. I hope we get to go on plenty more adventures together. Aaron Patera over there on the mixer.
Good times.
Good man. All right, gentlemen. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
To the great wine.
Thanks for listening. It's so great to get this first episode done and dusted. Please share, subscribe, look us up on all the social media platforms. A big shout out to Aaron Patero for being across all the technical stuff, and also to Light and Shade Media for giving us this amazing space to work in. Well, that's it. I hope everyone has a fantastic day.